A very warm welcome to all of you, particularly the Director General of ICHCAP and WIPIC. Now he has double role, to Dr. Han from UNESCO and all the participants, the wonderful professional colleagues now, I would say. Welcome to this 2 days exposition. Luckily, coincidentally, we're also able to host this exposition in connection with something called Heritage Week. That's being a tradition in India now. The 3rd week of November has been started sharing as a Heritage Week, and a lot of heritage things happen. So at Ahmedabad University, the center, we also have a Students Heritage Club. So all of us are putting together so many different events. So this particular event also has been promoted in that light, so people are aware. So since it is virtual and many people are actually in Ahmedabad already doing things in person, I think not many participants may be there in virtual thing, but they will get to see your projects. We'll be sharing with them in some other modes as well. So a warm welcome to all of you, and I look forward to your deliberations. And I hope this exposition will lead to something further for all of you to find new collaborations, to find good peer groups, and to move forward the projects. And I look forward to seeing the real concrete projects in future. So all the best to all the presenters, and warm welcome to our distinguished guests. Thank you very much.
Okay, so yeah, as Professor Neil mentioned, we have the Director General of ICHCAP, Mr. Kume, with us. And Mr. Kume, would you please give some opening remarks for and encouraging words to our presenters?
Okay, thank you very much for giving me the floor, and then really appreciate your hard working and experts under the leadership of the Professor Neil Kamel, and then always good supporter, very nice supporter, the Dr. Hein from UNESCO Bangkok, and then the friends. Maybe we are coming from the different time zone. Good afternoon, good morning. In Korea, it's a good afternoon. My name is Keum Gi-hyung. Actually, I'm in charge of the ICHCAP. Some of you may have heard about the names. We devoted more than 10 years for supporting the intangible cultural heritage safeguarding in line with the UNESCO conventions. Personally, it's a really great pleasure to get a chance to welcome all the participants today for today's Expo on Intangible Cultural Heritage and Sustainable Development. Before we get started, definitely I should express my sincere gratitude to the co-organizer of this event, Ahmedabad University and UNESCO Bangkok, and should going to the speakers who are voluntarily share their project ideas later for all of us. From the last workshop, successfully held last month, participants will go to learn and think about the intangible cultural heritage with heritage-sensitive sustainable development, gender, community-driven documentation, business development, education, and the effect of a crisis with a focus on the COVID-19 pandemic, addressing the 2003 convention from the perspective of its relation to other conventions. Based on these learnings, at today's Expo, speakers would share their project ideas as a part of their final assignment. It can be a great opportunity to strengthen the capacity of the young researchers and practitioners via this kind of platform to share their practical ideas in a community of academians, professionals, and community stakeholders, as it will be an excellent chance for the organization as well by networking with emerging experts in intangible cultural heritage. Really, I thank you, all of you, for being virtually present here and looking forward to seeing the meaningful results of Speakers Day, and then hope we can meet in person next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kyum. Those are very important words, especially the fact that we hope that we will really meet next year. Moving on to the agenda of the day, we have our first presenter, Yo-Jung Kim. She will be presenting on the Intangible Cultural Heritage and Copyrights, a study of Samgomu Korean drum dance.
Varvi, if I may intervene, before we start with the presentations, would you brief about the agenda, like what are the time,
right,
factors?
Of course. Yeah. So today has been divided into 3 slots, 1 hour each. We have 3 participants per slot, and every participant will be given 20 minutes. The first 5 minutes will be given for one video that they will show related to the intangible cultural heritage element that they have picked up. So so that is 5 minutes video slot. Followed by that will be a 10-minute presentation of their assignment that they of the project idea that they have developed. So just to give you a brief, as Mr. Kyum mentioned, we had the workshop, and out of their learnings from the workshop, they were asked to develop a project idea, a project proposal to safeguard an ICH element of their choice. So following that, there will be there'll be 5 minutes of question answer rounds where the floor is open to everyone. I would suggest that first you raise your hand, and in case you have a burning question in the middle of the presentation, kindly direct the question to me on personal message so I can read it out later in case you cannot speak up at that time. So as I said, 3 sessions, 1 hour each, and we'll have a 5-minute break between the 3 sessions, and we'll be ending at 12:20 Indian time, and we have another 10 minutes for any additional questions, comments, and suggestions from everyone in the meeting.
And just to add on, so some of the presentations are group work, right? I mean, we also were able to bring people together for a joint project. So I think that's one of the outcome of the workshop already, that as the objective of ICHCAP suggests, the networking has already happened through this process in a very meaningful way. And I'm really very happy to see that is shown in the project ideas as well. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So with that being said, I think we are ready for Yo-Jung.
And okay, so, my topic is Intangible Cultural Heritage and Copyrights. I looked at the Samgomu as an example, it's Korean drum dance. My name is Yo-Jung Kim. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Nice to meet you all. I've learned so much from this this whole 3-week long workshop. So I guess I'll just start showing. Hold on. Okay. So this is a table of content. I'm going to be showing first with the videos. Video is only 1 minute long, but I'm going to show another video at the end of it. So what is Samgomu basically? I guess you'll have a better idea after watching this video. But Samgomu is basically, okay, so it's a 3-drum dance. A group of performers play 3 freestanding drums, 2 on the side, 1 on the back with a pair of a stick. So the performer's uniform movement of drumming and dancing delivers the orally and visually dynamic expression, which is engaging and entertaining. So their costume also enhances the effect with color and shape. So basically the alignment can expand to the side, top, and to the back as well. So yeah, let's actually show the video at the moment, because you're supposed to show it right before I go on.
All right, all right.
Okay. So the controversy was the, as you can see, it's the Korean pop group features Samgamu among other traditional dances. Towards the end of the video, you see more other traditional dances at an award ceremony in 2018. So it became a controversy when the Ubong Lee Mebang Art Company, formed by his late Lee's family members, they registered copyrights for Samgamu in late 2018. So they criticized that Samgamu was used without crediting it to the creator Lee Mebang. So the art company previously had demanded the National Dance Company of Korea to pay a significant fee for having staged Omogu, which is 5-drum dance, as you can see in this, the bottom photo in their beautiful Hangyan performance in 2016. So hold on. Okay, here we go. So, so Samgamu description, as I described before, I'll just skip this slide. And okay, so what is the origin of a Samgamu, basically? So it's one of the theories. There are many theories about Samgamu, and it's one of the theories says it originates from Sungmu. It's a Buddhist monk dance. And just to briefly explain the background, Buddhism was brought to Korea as a 3-kingdom period in the 4th century, long time ago. So widely influenced the philosophy and ideology, and it had brought radical changes to politics and culture and language. I mean, the reason why I'm mentioning this is that Buddhism influences are still very widely evident today in both tangible and intangible cultural heritage in Korea. So one thing to note that that Master Lee Mebong is the holder of a Sungmu, the important intangible cultural property number 27. So who is the Master Lee Mebong? I just wanted to look into his background so that to understand what has influenced him as his dance as a student, teacher, and performer and master. So he, Lee Mebong, in 1927 to 2015, is regarded as one of the greatest masters who considerably contributed to the traditional dance community until today. So he showed talent when he was very young. He started learning from several masters in Mokpo there, where he was born. And among female students who trained traditional arts, these schools are built to foster female entertainers back in the time. It's called Gwonbun. These schools played a significant role in maintaining the traditional arts through the politically turbulent period. And it had a significant impact on Lee's professional journey later on. So it is said that this early period of learning contributed to Lee's exceptional artistic sensibility. Oops. So Lee Mebong is a student. So in Beijing in 1930, he briefly lived there to go visit, to live with his brother and sisters. And then he was inspired by the performance of a Mei Lan Bang, a Peking opera actor who was famous for his female role when the female was not allowed on stage. So he learned from Mei's assistant and later created Janggeommu, longsword dance, as you can see at the bottom. It's inspired his learning during this time. This is only he was about like 12 of age. So dance has taken eclectic form at the time, having been influenced by the theater productions of China and Japan, as well as the dancers who came from abroad. So this whole new wave of changes emerged in the dance community between 1920s and 1970s, which affected the structure, contents of choreography, stage setting, costume, and etc. in dance production in Korea at the time. So Lee Mebong becoming a master. So he continued to learn and cultivate his style through his learning, and he established his own studio at the age of 24 in 1951. So this is a period when Samgamu was created, and he just continued to go around several cities, visit the Gwonbun to continue learning, teaching, and performing. So let's note that Lee's dance never lost the focus on original forms of a tradition. He was said to have demonstrated a contemporary interpretation of a traditional expression, but never joined the new wave of changes changes that quickly happening at the time to modify tradition. So while it was a developing production to a well-staged performing arts, he had taught his students to adhere to the details of a traditional techniques and spirit. So finally, his effort and contribution got recognized, and he became the holder of two two dances, the Sungmu and Salpurichum. I'll talk about it later. So I wanted to actually mention these two dances as an example of tradition has transformed to become another tradition at a later time. So tradition through transformation, and it became another tradition. So Sungmu basically, so it's a Buddhist monk dance, ritual dance expressing solemnness and an inner struggle. So Master Lee became holder of this important intangible cultural property number 27 in 1987. So it features many Buddhism influenced elements, but no longer carries religious significance. It has a long development to artistic folk dance. And also Salpurichum is a commoner's shamanistic ritual dance to the spirits to prevent or expel bad luck. And it's supposed to be improvisational. So he also, Master Lee also is the holder of a Salpurichum, and it became in the 1990s. So once, this particular dance was banned during the colonial period, so its practice no longer exists today. So it's only artistic form developed into a folk dance. So these dances may differ in their origin and time, but however, they survived and transformed through the political, social changes over time, and no longer serve their original purposes. So only their artistic tradition remains today. Tradition has become another tradition at a later time. So Samgoma identities. What is a Samgoma and what is the context in this whole legal battle? So following the Korean War in the 1950s, while the government was putting enormous effort to boost the economy, the artists drove the movement to revive Korea's tradition and culture. And Lee Mebang created Samgoma during this period and staged, known to have staged the first performance in 1948. So he experimented with the drum set and then the dances. He created Ogomu, which is 5-drum dance, Chulgomu, 7-drum dance, Gugomu, 9-drum dance, etc., etc. So, and then that became the international event to impress the world. The Asian Game in 1986, so Olympic in 1988. So Samgoma was presented as a part of the big dance performing arts as one of the Korean traditional culture during the opening ceremony. So it just quickly became a national symbol of Korea's traditional performing arts. So also it has become synonymous with the Korean traditional performing arts. So it has been performed locally and globally since then as a traditional art form to celebrate and transmit to cultural significance. As you can see, it has performed in Disneyland in Los Angeles, or as there's opportunities for the younger generations and for the foreigners. So what is the issue with the copyright at the moment? So I just wanted to go into the detail briefly.
Yoja?
Yes.
Can I you have 2 more minutes to.
2 more minutes. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. Let me actually try to get to it. I haven't really get to the point yet. So, but basically, there are 2 companies. Ubong Lee Mebang Art Company, which is composed by the family members. So they stress that this copyright is solely for the purpose of preserving the original forms and choreography of Lee's creative work. And it's going to set an example for any future creative work. Whereas the Preservation Society of Lubong Lee Mebang Dance, it consists of students and professionals who are in the industry. So basically, they said this copy claim is actually contradict late Lee's wishes. He has passed away 2015, but copyright didn't come until 2018. So he said he would want it continue transmitting as dances. So he insisted in keeping the original form because it would only encourage dancers to achieve a higher level of a technique and artistic expression. So basically, it'll be unethical to privatize a lifelong work dedicated not only to the dance community, but also the nation where its cultural value belongs to. So basically, there has been a protest by the preservation companies and and anybody the community who practices it. So I'm just going to go into quickly to the legal terms and then the definition. So I'm looking at these three acts on the safeguarding, promotion, and intangible cultural heritage, and in reinforcement decree of it, and then copyright 2009. And just so the controversy with the Samgomu had interested add an urgency to all parties in the dance community to find the ways to protect the tradition, coded archetype, and recognize a creative work, derivative work. So Professor Lee Gyu-ho, I have to comment, and we had a great conversation on over the phone. That he was helped me so much, leading this idea. So he's a professor in the School of Law in Chungang University. He emphasized the impending need to clarify the definition and the implication of the terms archetype and the derivative work that used to describe intangible cultural heritage in these. So just briefly, I just wanted to go over the sorry about that.
Yojang, I would request you to make your final comment.
Final, okay. So okay, so this is really quick. All right, I guess I lost all that coordinating with you.
That's okay. I gave you 2 minutes extra, so just.
Okay, so archetype basically is constitute the value of a specific intangible cultural heritage. So these are basically a definition of archetype, the intrinsic technique, forms, and knowledge. And it also mentions the basic principle of the safeguarding and promotion of ICH in Article 3, which I was going to go over. So this is my understanding of the archetype. It's a core value in ICH. It has transformed and reappropriated in different times. And basically, it may so nature of a safeguarding ICH lies in maintaining the identity of a culture while adopting the organic changes by the community. So in a way, like the archetype in ICH would demonstrate the identity of the collective practice, so cannot be restricted by any individual copyrights claim. So another, I just wanted to go into the detail, but basically, I mean, all these, based on my research, I try to kind of translate these verses through my research. So maybe I'll just skip this one. So another, the definition of a term that I want to go over is a derivative work. It's just about anything that's a creative work that is not part of an archetype. It's called a derivative work and copyrights. So all translation, or arrangement, alteration, dramatization, etc., and original work. So I just wanted to quickly mention, so this is my last page. I'm just gonna second last page right now. So Samgomu is another nationally recognized intangible cultural heritage property. It has been performed by numerous productions in numerous locations. So although it has work developed by Li Mebang, the dance company around the globe, they have showed different forms of expressions with their own creative work incorporated. So, I mean, I just wanted to show that, okay, so the derivative work shall be found in existing form as our company currently claims, then the archetype needs to be identified in it first so that another derivative work can be created upon it to declare that there are new rights to the new derivative work. So this way the new work will not interfere with the rights of the original work is stated in the section 2 in the copyrights. So this creates more chaos, you know, like on top of adding new rights on top of each other. So overall, after looking through all these legal terms, I came back to the square one basically. So I guess in a way, like Samgomu needs a more holistic interdisciplinary approaches to research in defining these terms. So basically, this is my last page. So summary and reflection. I don't have action yet because, as I mentioned, I am back to square one. Like how can we actually find a more sustainable way to protect ICH? So basically, these are the summary of what I presented earlier. So basically, one thing to note is that tradition transforms through time. So, and then the privatization of Samgomu will present a great challenge, not only to the community who practices it, but also to the nation at large that holds its cultural value. So I guess so these illegal boundaries will hinder community drive to transmit and eventually endanger the popularity and existence of the community. They're already struggling in the modern time, right? So some of the questions that we can ask ourselves for our future generations: do we really need to obsess with the precise forms of Samgomu as we know today? like I said, this is not a nationally recognized intangible heritage property. So has it been attracting and inspiring younger generation to benefit as a future transmission? How would the younger students like to adapt today's Samgomo for tomorrow? And how would they utilize technology and new concepts of transmission? So these are a lot of thoughts. And then one of the video I wanted to show, which I sent the link to Barbie. Can I ask you to show it just briefly? It's you don't have to show the whole thing. Maybe just a couple, like maybe 20 seconds or so.
Maybe we can show that at the end once we're done with the question answers.
Okay,
yeah?
got it. Yeah, okay. So I mean, yeah. One thing I wanted to mention here, because is that using the new technology, using the new idea of a transmission. That this video clip shows the clip. The video clip of the Lim Ebang in a hologram dancing with his own daughter, who is the receiver of the traditional ICH. So this is really fascinating that we all see in the during the World Heritage Forum ceremony. Okay, that's it. So shall
okay.
Go back.
So.
Okay.
May I coordinate this question and answer session? Do we have, thank you very much for the presentation. Yujang Kim, do we have any questions to raise to you?
Can I have a quick question, Yujang?
Yes.
This is Han. Yeah, it is very interesting. I'm sorry that it's so rushed, but
Okay.
I very much feel like the work that registered by Master Lee is very much borderline what in UNESCO terms what that would be considered a part of the creative industry to me. That has a very strict copyright and individual rights of Master Lee and things. So I'm very curious. At the end, you mentioned about the society, preservation society. So they are practicing this Sangomu form in a different way, or they were just kind of disciples of Master Lee, and who kind of like BTS songs now are being sung by all these people who adore them, that kind of thing. Why are they? Because it is a very interesting case,
Yes.
and I'm just wondering.
Yes. So actually. Right. So the Preservation Society consists of all Master Lee's students and anybody who practices it in some one form or another. So so basically, like the art company are the family members of Lee, who claims the copyrights after he passes away. But everybody who has been learning with Master Lee and who's been training for all this time, all of a sudden they don't have the rights to do it because somehow they have to pay somehow. So it seems that this preservation society is already struggling because this is a traditional dance. It's not popular. It doesn't get much attention and all of that. But this group of this community, they not only practice Samgomo but other traditional dances. Samgomo is one of the dances they practice. But so all of a sudden, it seems like Samgomo is one of the engaging, entertaining, performing arts they've been practicing. All of a sudden, they can't do it, and they can't teach at the universities. They can't teach at the centers and the national level too. So this has become a very controversial in that sense.
Other question? Yes, Kamal.
Thank you very much for your very hard work and good presentation. A very simple question is, you say is that the traditional things and copyright, how is the work in the traditional, I mentioned customary system and the copyright in Korea? Thank you very much.
So I think this is a really tricky area because you cannot claim register copyrights for traditional dances that has been recognized as a cultural heritage property. So the two examples of the dances, Sungmu and Salpurichum, which I showed you earlier, the master he's the holder of these two nationally recognized dances. This cannot be copyrighted because it's an archetype. It's the tradition that has been recognized nationally. So perhaps maybe I should have spent a bit more time on the clearing that legal terms there. So basically, archetype is something that represent the identity of the cultural value, identity of the ICH. So this cannot be copyrighted, but just because some Gomu is just has been kind of casual performing arts that hasn't been really tackled by legal terms. So, but it has already become a big symbol, for as a national performing arts through different international events, and then through there has been performed globally here and there, and then people immediately recognize it as a Korean traditional art. But so the controversy starts when the family members claims that this is ours, I need copyrights for this. I don't know if I answered your questions. Yeah.
Other question? If there is no other question, as a final remark on my part, was a very interesting presentation because it had to do with intangible heritage in general, has to do with balancing between tradition and evolution. It started as a religious, then it moved into mostly artistic and cultural. It has to do with balancing between local, national, and international. And also it has to do between heritage and business, making money out of that. And in fact, the difficulty of the copyright issue is that it is linked to all these three balances, because tradition and evolution, it has to do with the archetype as well as the derivative work. It has to do with local, national, and international. For example, in the national system, is there any formal way of the Korean, does the Korean government has a formal way of copyright when it recognizes this intangible heritage? This is a critical issue, I would say. And the other thing has to do with the heritage and business, because it is the original part, but every time this becomes, let's say, a performance, etc., this is a different copyright, because you can have the copyright issue of a video, you can have the copyright issue of the conduct of a theatrical play. But within that, there is another copyright issue about archetype, etc., which is a different thing. So we saw all these different levels and complexities of copyright issues regarding the intangible heritage. Thank you very much for this presentation. Barbie, let us proceed with the next one, the next presentation.
Thank you so much, Yojan. This was a wonderful presentation. Next up, we have Grass Craft Weaving in Lumbini, Nepal by Chandraprakash Pathak from Nepal and Mrs. Ruth DeCosta from India.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I'm Chandraprakash Pathak from Lumbini, Nepal, coming up with cultural heritage, intangible cultural heritage, grass craft weaving in Lumbini, Nepal. So first of all, I want to show a video I have compiled to show how this craft is made from start to end. Let's watch this. It's about 4-minute video.
Okay.
So. So the grass craft making is a very important part of the life of the community, which is centered in and around the UNESCO World Heritage Site of Lumbini. That is the birthplace of Lord Buddha. So at this place, annually about 1.5 million visitors are visiting according to 2018 data. So the community is a agrarian community, and the women are the main stakeholder of the craft making. Only women make the craft here. So the communities are located around the World Heritage Site. You can see in the map, the red circles are the community, and the yellow circle is the World Heritage Site of Lumbini, and the green rectangle is the Lumbini Master Plan area. So around this Master Plan area and the World Heritage Site, the community are living. So this element has very important cultural value in the community, from birth to death. In every rituals, festivals, and agricultural works, the grass craft and the products made from grass are used extensively. And this product is also very eco-friendly. And in terms of cost effectiveness, it is made from locally available grasses, so it is cost effective for the locals, and it is durable also, because it is unbreakable, and it can last for many years, and it is environment friendly, and it can be used as alternative to plastic products. So the element relies on natural resource. There are two types of grasses which are grown on river banks and wastelands. So this also supports for biodiversity. The grass, growing the grasses is also supporting biodiversity, nature conservation, and it also makes the land fertile, because the people are in agriculture, involved in agriculture. So this also makes the land fertile with root going deep down in the earth. So it supports the whole system of the community. So the objective of this proposal is to bring the stakeholders of the community to one platform, so that this ICH element can be documented, inventoried, and the community is empowered enough so that it can continue this tradition with knowledge transfer to the next generation, because it can be seen now that next generation needs some support and some awareness to transfer this knowledge. So after implementing this plan, the practice of making the craft and the products can become a sustainable tourism product of Lumbini, the World Heritage Site area. So seeing the visitors, large number of visitors coming to Lumbini, it can be a very sustainable tourism product. And the main concerns of the artisans is the branding and marketing of the products, so that the products can be made easily, they can be easily sold. Hence, with a proper branding and marketing solution can be provided to the community. And proposed activities for this project are to create a crafts hub. So a craft hub would be a place where practitioners will be together, and their synergy will be developed with museums, NGOs, government organizations. And from this hub, skill enhancement, trainings, skill transfer to the local community will be executed. And also from this craft hub, in long term, awareness and promotional activities, and also some extracurricular activities in schools can be performed as a long-term plan. So various other activities such as workshops, camps, field trips can be conducted when the hub becomes fully functional. Second activity would be to make a digital platform where the ICH element can be shown to the broader world through online media. It can be shown to people around the world and those who are visiting to the World Heritage Site. So through this platform, a marketplace can also be developed in the near future, through which anyone can place online orders, whether they are visiting Lumini or not. So our digital platform will be also for educational purposes. And the third proposed activity is to create synergy to the tourism stakeholders. So there are many stakeholders like government, private sector, and the community. So through this project, synergy with all of them can be created. So to implement the action plan, with proper coordination with the local government, provincial government, tourism department, museum, skill enhancement and the craft or products promotion strategies would be identified and implemented. And young girls from the community would be identified and appointed to take the charge of driving the craft making business, because girls are the main stakeholders. So the new generation of girls would be identified, and branding and marketing strategies would be implemented so that the craft products can be marketed as the product of Lumbini, the birthplace of the Buddha. So it will be branded as the product of Lumbini, so that anyone can take a memento, souvenir from Lumbini. So the grass is seasonal in nature, and so the using modern agricultural and storage practices, the grass can be stored so that it would be available anytime, because it is a seasonal grass. So storing is a issue. So by engaging the new generation in research, documentation, and innovative thinking, problems faced by the artists and craft sellers can be solved. So this would be the implementation plan. And as I told earlier, the stakeholder community are the people. There are many ethnic groups such as Madhesi, Tharu, Muslims, who are all of them are the practitioners of the grass craft making. All have been using the grass craft and make designs, different designs of it. So it is used by all in various rituals and cultures. And indication of success are that the community is located near the UNESCO World Heritage Site, Lumbini. So it attracts a large number of tourists, and a museum is also located. So it is a positive point. So skill development of artisans, and now with awareness, they are now perceiving the craft with to take it as a tourism product. So this is also an indication of success. So various government schemes are also coming. So if the government schemes are tied up with the ICS promotion and safeguarding, it can be a positive point. And also after the pandemic, there is a great scope for wider reach of the community through multimedia and online technologies. So this is also a positive point. So through this new online media, this ICS can be promoted. And the partners for this project would be Lumbini Leads is an NGO working in the community. So it works in the community, so it can be the main organization who leads the project. And Lumbini Cultural Municipality is the local government of this area. So this can be one of the main partners. And also Lumbini Development Trust is the authority which manages the World Heritage Site. So this will be another partner. And Lumbini Museum is there. This Lumbini Museum would be partner. And UNESCO office is in Kathmandu, the capital city of Nepal. So they will be also one of the partners. And there is Lumini Buddhist University. It is also located in the community. So they can support in academic way for the education. And Nepal Tourism Board is the tourism promotion agency of the government of Nepal. So they can promote this IC achievement through their channels. And Lumini provincial government is there. So they have also departments of tourism through which they can contribute to this IC achievement. And there are also many organizations such as Lumini Hotel Association, Federation of Handicraft Association of Nepal, and other hotels and resorts, schools, youth clubs, farmer groups, local businesses, culture and art advocates, which can be also taken as the collaborators and partners for this project. And for sustainable development, there are some efforts like to help to develop marketing strategies for entrepreneurs. So by developing marketing strategies, it can contribute for sustainable development, and also enhancing the visibility of the element of ICH through internet and social media, and support innovative community action. So new innovative action should be made so that there are space for creative experimentation to make new designs, new ideas. So there can be some modifications with this art. So that can also lead to sustainable development opportunities. And
Chandra Prakash ji, I would request you to wrap up in another 1 minute.
Okay, thank you. This is, I think, my last slide. Okay, and also we should think that livelihood of the artisans and fair remuneration is given to them. So for that is also related to sustainable development, I think. And we have to also think to from the prevent the ICS element from becoming over commercialized, so that the culture and nature do not feel any risk. Like we don't want to over consume the natural resources, so there should be some limitations also. And promoting the grass craft as eco-friendly product and the process as an act of nature conservation, and explore the opportunities for cross-border export to India, China, and other countries. So this will lead sustainable development of the community. So with a quote saying, when you support a handmade, you are not just supporting a person, small business, family, or economy. You are purchasing a small part of an artist's heart. So this is a quote from unknown person. I don't know who said this, but with this, I would like to conclude my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you both the presenters. Questions? Ruth, if you would like to add anything to this presentation, please feel free to do that. We would kindly ask your some input from your part as well. Kamal, please unmute yourself and raise the question.
Thank you very much, Chandra Prakash Pathakji, for your hard work and your very interesting presentation. I look is a very, how to say, the colorful design. Could you please, what is the color? Is it the natural dye do they use or what? If they use the natural, the dye, how we can protect the intellectual property? And you say the modern agriculture you are going to be set up, and what is that? And you also mentioned that grass could help for the biodiversity and conservation, and how is the relationship with the cultural heritage site and community? Thank you very much.
So talking about the it's not agricultural setup. I mentioned that it will be a cultural hub, especially the craft hub, where there would be practitioners doing weaving the baskets and also showcasing their products. So it will be placed. And another question you ask is that how it supports nature, biodiversity and nature conservation. So actually the grass is grown in on the river banks and waste lands. So it holds the soil, and it prevents the soil erosion also. So though the grass is cut, new grass comes out from it, and it provides shelter for many kinds of birds and animals also. So in that perspective, it is also a act of nature conservation in which local community is practicing. So this is also a craft, cultural thing, and also a nature protection thing. Thank you.
Other question? Thank you. Other question?
Sorry, and one question you asked, Mr. Kamal has asked that whether they are using natural color. From my research, I found that there were earlier they were using natural colors, some natural colors, but nowadays they are using chemical colors. So there was a trend of using natural colors also, but it is very disappearing. Natural color is not used these days. So we have to further explore about the coloring process, natural coloring process. Thank you.
Other question?
Just like to add, it has been an interesting journey because as a cross-border collaboration, we exchange many ideas, though the cultures between both the countries are the same. So it was easy to interact and to get things together. But what has been very interesting is the aspect of having an export. That concept has really triggered me to say that we can get the products from across into India, and from here we can do an exchange and have more exposure of this element. So that is a very interesting outcome that has come from this whole assignment.
Since there is no question, a final remark on my part, and some, if I would say, even advice to Chandra and Ruth. There are two issues that to me are crucial. First of all, who is going to do all that? You mentioned about some girls of the community. Will that be an informal association? Will be that in terms of, in legal terms, as a company, etc.? So the question that should be added, the issue that should be added in this presentation is who does that, and especially with issues of from two different countries, there might be, how are they legal recognition of this association, company, whatever, in different countries. This is an issue that you should take into account. And the second issue, you should also see the perspective of the customer. Who is the customer? So that you better link your products, etc., to the customer, to the target groups. Okay, because I saw from this presentation the one part, but it is interesting to have in mind also the other part, the customer part. Okay, this is it. Thank you very much for this very interesting presentation. And Bharvi, back to you again.
Okay, so that was wonderful. Now we have the next group, the last group for this slot, which is on ritual diversity mapping in landscape at Nepal, Province 1. And we have 6 people in this group: Tara ji, Kamal Kumar Rai ji, Naina ji, Mekhraj Rai ji, and Priyanka Singh from India.
Hello, everybody. So I'm going to show our video. Our video length is 10 minutes, 50 seconds, but we try to make only 5 minutes present before, and then Kamal sir present further his our proposal, and then at in we try to show the video again. That would be nice to provide us for the timing, because we have the group of 5 persons. So hope so. Now I'm sharing my video.
I think it's a sound issue again.
Mainasa Kosarela stop गर्ने होला. We maybe need, is it enough for 5 minutes? If we'll have a time, we can continue in later.
Okay, thank you. I will present at end. Kamal sir, now please. I hand over you.
Okay, I will tell you. Welcome. Our presentation is the ritual biodiversity in a mapping in landscape. It seems the photo pictures is the tangible, but it has the meaning of the intangible or the ritual, and we have diverse and the ritual things in related this thing in Bobby, please. Next slide. You see you also observe the on video, and this is pictures. We have a diverse such kind of the ritual in province 1 in the landscape. And Barbie, please. Yes, this is a kind of bird we need to grow in the farm and for the occasion of the ritual. Please, next. So this is the similar, and our people need and make a different kind of the things for the ritual. Please, Margaret. Yes, this is the farming ritual and the people's the worship and the people farming. Next, please. Yes, this is done. We show in the video. Please, next, please. Okay, this is our the project site located in the Eastern Nepal. Next, please. In province 1, we have a 17.5 total land area in the country, 1.5 peoples living in that area, 43% speak Nepali, and we have 106 different languages in this province. That's how it has the diverse the ritual, because of the language is very important. 3.6 is the current indigenous peoples, and they have more than 26 different languages. Barbie, next, please. For this, the mapping, we have this objective to identify the potential inventory for the ritual diversity mapping on this area, to find out the risk and challenge and gap and opportunity of the another objective of this our project site, investigate and the appropriate way to address the ethical issue in the participatory approach in the objective of our project site. Next, please, Barbie. We frame out the participatory methods and use different type of tools. Before beginning our mapping, we wanted to identify what is the issue and what is the mechanism to identify the issue. So that's our methods and looking tools, what is the best one. And we mostly use about the customary system of the peoples in this province 1. Do they have, and what is the institution they are holding the customary system, and how we establish and what is the mechanism of the free prior informed consent and the self-determination of indigenous peoples and local community in that area. That's our first methods and use the tool. We also wanted to review the Nepal Constitution and different other tools, such as the CBD Article 8J, Article 10, Article 26 in Cartagena Protocol, and ABS Nagoya Protocol, because it says the benefit sharing should be in the mechanism of ways. Also, we wanted to see the UN RIP, that tells about the indigenous peoples and ICS convention. We also wanted to go through the IBES, WIPO, and others national tools. And also we have a form of the community protocol, oral and tradition, how it works, because this is the closely related to the rituals. Barbie, next please. Yes, continue. We need to have a mechanism. We wanted to fix what the mechanism to work in the process, in the participatory purpose, how it works in multi-stakeholder process. Maybe we need to go to the bottom-up approach. Then we have a more clear idea and methods to work on this, the ritual diversity in this our area. We continue literature review, consultation with the peoples, individual farmers, religious groups, communities, and indigenous peoples. Also, we can consult with the NGO, INGO, bilateral, multilateral, academician, university, and UNESCO Nepal and UNESCO others in province levels. Also, we close contact with the Nepal tourism boards and any others professional like the funding agency, donors, and banks, and other agency to explore more effectively in that area. Barbie, please. Yes, the consultation process also contact with the human rights, indigenous peoples and their networks, the values, the rituals holders, the origin, and the community, how they wanted to and what their views for this. So we wanted to collect all their the issues and their concern before doing that works. And similarly, the mechanism preparation, how work with the women, especially women groups, elders, and indigenous peoples as their right holders. Also, we take into a focus group in the participatory mapping process. Also, we use for this an open and structured questionnaire after these events. Thank you very sorry. Next, please. Then we can organize in the particular the inventory field base, use the ecological transect through observation, participatory survey, symbolic study, and diverse views, and identify, analysis, and ecosystem, tradition, and other practices, how link with the nature, how link with the stone and forest, biodiversity, environment, and what is there, the customary practices, and how they are using, what should be follow up in field base. That is very important for us, and we will taking in continuous in the deep and deep in to find out their footprint and the linkages. The system can be varied in elevation, because in our province ones in high mountain is almost in top of the world, it's the mountain Everest. And also lower place in the about the 60 millimeter from the sea level. So that's the we have a geographical diversity, and that's in the ritual practice also vary in the elevation of the land and in the province one. Next, please, Rafi. Yes, there is the Mundum Trail. Mundum is the one of the Kirati rituals, the system, but it has diverse because of the linguistic difference. They have been initiated already. We wanted to continue their roadmap and make more inventory in side by side, and looking for their connectivity and the participatory mapping. for this. And also we wanted to module about the ritual ritual diversity scientific different kind of modules, multi-dynamic connection and historical and holistic mechanism to achieve different kind of discipline. Then we can make the others form of the opportunity. Next, please. Yeah, we already say this the outcome. We will have the ethical code of conducts and their mechanism, how it works in long run. We are hoping more than 100 distinct ritual diversity we can map it. Qualitative, quantitative, and documentary will be produced. Risks and challenges and opportunity will find out in a written form. And then we will have a long-term holistic strategy. The strategy can show the opportunity, collaboration, what type of revitalization, education, research, and restoration, conservation, and protection measures we need to have take consideration in future. That is the main outcome of our project. Next, please, Bobby. Yes, from the ritual-centric can be opportunity, the formal, non-formal education, academic curriculum development, research and collaboration with the university and other kind of form of education form in the future. The collaboration could be the enterprises and entrepreneurship making some, if it is possible, to digitization, tourism development, and agroforestry, biodiversity, edible frog hunting, tourism, farming, and other form of the ICHCAP in that area, and could be the better for the local livelihood. How to localize and mitigate and promote and protect this to achieve the SDG goals in harmony with Mother Nature and Earth. That's the outcome, the dreaming on this project site. And next, please, Bobby. Yes, the ritual diversity, we are looking about the different type of footprints. For example, language is very basic, for the ritual, and we are looking for religious, that's a connect with the ecosystem, land, stone, mountain, lake, air, water, and bird and faunal species in genetic levels, and forest, other things. And we're looking to the map in diverse forms. Next, please. Yes, we have.
I would request you to wrap up so that we have enough time for question answers.
Yeah, thank you. We have is this multi-year budget, and we have the 2020 to 22 is the mapping year. We look possible donors with the province and local governance, university research grants, NGO, INGO, maybe in the UNESCO and individual in that area. Next, please, Bobby, for the mapping. This is our main. This is our annual plan. Next, please. We have find out there's some right holders organization. There's the Kirap Federation Indigenous Association Nepal, and others in NEPIN, WIFIN, NIF, NIF, they have 2 NIF, and others, the community members in the area. Next, please, Bobby. We wanted to acknowledge the Ahmedabad University, ICHCAP department, and UNESCO, Bangkok, and Korea. And we are looking forward to collaborate in future if possible. And we have 5 members, and thank you very much, Robbie.
Thank you for the presentation. Is there any questions that you would like to ask? Lubna?
Yeah, thank you so much. It is such a wonderful project and very well organized and designed. But it is more an inventorizing project than a safeguarding. Though at the end you do tell us what are within the outcomes you are telling us how you plan to safeguard. So I just want to share that we have done a lot of inventorizing in Bangladesh, especially of ethnic communities. It might help you. There are two ways in which we categorize rituals. One is that we did rites of passage from birth to death for each community, step by step. You know, when a child is, when a mother is pregnant and then the child is born, this is one way. And the second is seasonal, because there's in countries like ours, there are so many rituals we need to sort of categorize. So we used these two methods. And for safeguarding, of course, there is the 4-goal method where you inventorize and then you have to ensure transmission and celebrate it, and of course, link it to SDG goals. Thank you so much. A really wonderful project.
Thank you, Lubna. Some other questions, insights, remarks? Anton, please unmute yourself.
Sorry, actually, this is Han. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, so I think it is a very ambitious project. I agree with Lubna that this essentially an inventory project. And you did say that this would lead to your safeguarding plans and safeguarding efforts, which is, I think is very important that you recognize that. Just to mention that because there would be so many rituals that you're going to document, I think to look at the viability and the threat to this ritual would be important, because at the end of the day, you cannot really have the efforts to safeguard everything. So that would be important to prioritize the one that are under threat, and then the one that are already living well and we might not need to have intervention yet. So that I think that would be an important question that to include during your mapping exercise.
Yes, Professor Neil.
Yes, thank you, Yanis. Yes, I just wanted to echo Lubna and Hans' concern that this is a very ambitious project. But one thing I would like to pick up, you mentioned that the Mundum Trail. I think that gives me perhaps a thread which might connect. So maybe that's something you want to think how, and I understand this is something, already underway. So maybe the prioritization and making it more realistic, not aiming everything at once, but realistically, and like in a trail, you take the first step and gradually you move forward. I think the trail really gives you your business model as well as the entire project model. That's my suggestion, to conceptualize as a trail, both metaphorically, but also in practice. Thanks.
If there are no remarks, yes, my thoughts would be in the same direction. First of all, inventorying should be linked to something broader, a broader objective. For example, it could be safeguarding, it could be, making an enterprise or a product out of it, or cultural tourism, or whatever you decide. And the second thing is that so far it is a very big and ambitious project. It has to be separated into smaller projects, because this will help also with funding, etc. So it should be seen as a kind of step-by-step process, and each step should be an individual, a separate project, so that it becomes even more realistic. Thank you so much, Barbie. Back to you.
All right. So our next presentation is by Angela and Faiza from Indonesia on Batik Lasem, the vibrant imprint of the city. So Angela and Faiza, over to you.
Greetings from Indonesia. My name is Angela, and together with Ms. Faiza, we would like to present the Batik Lasem as the one of ICH element with vision to become the vibrant imprint of the city. We will play the video to understand the context of the Lasem city first. So Lasem city in Central Java, Indonesia, has a long history of world trade. This has led to the mixing of different cultures throughout the centuries, from both racial and religious, leaving behind a striking tapestry of tangible and intangible artifacts. These include the unique Three Nation or Three Kingdoms batik, an exquisite cultural landscape, a rich urban fabric, and Peranakan familiar oral history. And then we find some significance of batik Lasem. Batik Lasem is a living proof of acculturation in Lasem. The distinct feature of this batik is the three colors, which is red from Lasem itself as Chinese representation, the brown soga from Javanese noble culture, and the indigo from the coast Pekalongan. It is the result of how Chinese trader wants to integrate their cultures with the Javanese nobles and European colonies. The batik making practice and its history attached to Lasem has always been compelling to look forward to. Batik industry in Lasem is on the brink of dying out. Most batik workers are now aged over 60. Youth no longer see the business financially promising. However, industry owners start seeking ways to make traditional batik making process more environmentally friendly by using natural dyes and water treatment plants. Next. The fall of batik industry impacted to the deteriorated built fabric of the distinctive architecture of Lasem, mostly functioning as residential and also batik workshop. The buildings are now left by the owner who seeks other opportunities in the bigger city. So we want to propose a batik Lasem as the vibrant imprint of the city. Lasem city has a distinctive Chinese town and architecture used for batik workshops as the tangible elements, while the batik Lasem is the rich acculturation and the Peranakan familiar oral history become the intangible ones. Those intangible elements are illustrated and passed on through batiks. So that makes batik Lasem becomes the heart of the Lasem city. And then next, please. Safeguarding of the tangible and intangible heritage of Lasem is necessary. Focusing on the batik industry, the knowledge transmission will be enhanced with a more popular and technology-savvy approach with objective refer to Sustainable Development Goals number 12 by making environment, economic, and cultural sustainability of batik Lasem, and also make a continuity of batik industry within generation. Refer to SDG number 11 to conserve Lasem deteriorating built fabric, and also refer to SDG 17 to make a local community empowerment through multi-stakeholder collaboration.
This is the overview of our proposal. We want to document and interpret the intangibility of batik Lasem, and this can be later translated into products that are adjusted to certain audience and goals. The methods used for the data collection of this proposal would be something that more participative and inclusive. And this has been done through workshops and clinics. The cultural mapping, we want to see how batik interacts with the overall fabric, and the stakeholder mapping is also important to ensure synergy in the proposal, but not only that, but to sort of map who can do what later on. So since we are reflecting to the continuous nature of a safeguarding effort, we want to phase this proposal into 4 based on the priority. The first 2 phases will be about strengthening the inner community, and the third and fourth will be about marketing it into the outer and bringing more people into Lasem. And this is to ensure the readiness of people. So when Lasem is opening its door, the values are already grounded, and it results in nothing but local empowerment. The first phase would be documenting and archiving. We want to gather existing resources from not only from the locals, but also practitioners that are familiar with batik Lasem, and make this accessible for everyone. The first 2 products are cultural map and digital repository through a website. The targeted audience will be the local community itself, and also more globally heritage groups and practitioners. These are the collaborators that we can think of. There is this community named Kesangsang Lasem. They have been working with online engagement with community through social media, and also Lasem Heritage Foundation. They've been also providing sources and oral history, and also engage with locals. Remaining base batik business owners and workers. Also, there are 2 partner universities that have been working in Lasem as well. The second phase, we want to ensure knowledge transmission happening, so the future generation will have the willpower and surely proper means to carry on the tradition. The products you can think of are more like things like storybooks for kids. Indonesia is big into storytelling, so storybook made out of batik will be a good entrance to introduce this to youngsters. School curriculum where they can not only learn about batik as a product, but also as an industry, and also an intangible heritage that I have to safeguard. And third is batik festival to make this more appealing to youth. So these are the target audience, and also the more or less same collaborators for second phase. And the third, this is something we pick up from the workshop, is about heritage sensitive marketing. Just when Lasem is ready to open its door, we want to market it to a wider audience, and of course spread awareness, especially to younger audience. So the products are things that are more technologically savvy. We think about AR embedment into batik products hang tank, where people can scan and access info about where the batik is made. Is it sourced ethically, or is it more environmentally friendly? And also virtual tools to have some sort of an introduction for people. So when they come to lesson, they are aware of the heritage that are there. The targeted audience might be not only be heritage enthusiasts, but also art enthusiasts. And these are the collaborators for the space. And the fourth, of course, the ultimate goal is to make Lasem as a batik living museum. So in other way, heritage responsible tourism. We want to bring people to Lasem so the locals can share the intangible heritage, but also empower their own economy. The products will be things like walking tour. It can be batik themed, where people visit batik workshops, batik workers' houses, or even landscapes where natural dyes are sourced from. Also walking tour that are architecture themed, or even art installations of new interpretations of batik that are scattered around the city. So we want to target more than just heritage enthusiasts, but also general tourists and even architecture and art enthusiasts. Also, we need tour operators in this collaboration. So the status of the proposal right now, we've done preliminary data collection for the first phase, and web prototype is right now on progress. Our indicator of success right now is high engagement with the local community through the first phase, because it's very important to have an inclusive data collection. And also it will be successful to have the second and fourth phases to be done autonomously by the collaborators. And that's it. We want to thank Sangsam Lasem Heritage Foundation for a lot of guidance and materials, also Clinic Belajar Lasem that have been holding the cultural mapping workshop. So that's it from Angela and I from Indonesia.
Thank you very much. That was an excellent presentation in terms of timing and structure. Questions, remarks?
Lubna, you have a hand raised. Lubna, are you there?
Lubna, would like to unmute yourself, or you just raise your hand and it is from the previous time? I think
No,
this is...
No. I want to ask a question.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for a wonderful presentation. I just wanted to understand more how you want to include this in the school curriculum. I didn't get that properly. That's a wonderful idea.
Sorry, can you come again? I'm sorry, I missed you somewhere in the middle.
I said that it is a wonderful presentation, very well presented. I just wanted to understand how you want to include this in the school curriculum.
Oh, okay. Angela, would you like to answer, or me? So right now, every school in Indonesia already has something called local content, which means there is a course that can be accustomed to whatever the district has to offer. And right now they already have local contents for other arts like dancing or music, but not necessarily.
So this is official curriculum, which includes.
Yes, wow. We can do this as an official curriculum, but
that's soft
right now,
Indonesia.
Yes, I think, and we didn't think of it until Neil and Barfi suggested, but it is actually something you can propose, and it's official. The school can offer it as an extracurricular, but then what has not been covered in this curriculums is how this art can also be something a financially promising business.
All right, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it has been talking about batik, how to make batik, or how the patterns or the colors are exquisite, but not necessarily about the industry. Yes.
And they will teach this in school?
They haven't touched that part. So they only talk batik as a product.
Okay, thank you.
No, you
Other
are
remark?
welcome. We thank you.
Other remark? Other?
Kamalji?
Yes, Kamal.
Thank you very much. As in my understanding, batik is very unique, the reflection for identity of the Indonesia. And it has been in marketing and already, and also is the register. For my question, how is the benefit comes from the marketing? It goes to the community who hold does the things in from ancient time. Thank you.
So can I probably reword your question will be if the marketing is beneficial to the community? The marketing of batik?
No, I mean the benefit sharing mechanism. What kind of mechanism do you have in Indonesia? Does the profit goes to the right community or right people?
Oh, okay. To ensure the profit will go to the batik workshop. Okay. So right now, Kesengsem Lasem has done an online marketplace for the batik made in Lasem, and the profit all goes to the workshops. And we think marketplace like this need to arouse from the local community themselves and need to be managed by them rather than by outsiders. So proposing this to the local communities and make sure batik workshop owners get together and have one platform all together from themselves, we think is best in ensuring that the profits all go to them rather than distributors outside Lasem. Angela, do you have anything to add? Probably.
No, that's a very good answer, I think.
Mm-hmm. Other remark? Thank you. Other remark? Comment? What I personally found very interesting in this presentation is that when the whole inventorying, etc., started, they already had in mind what is the outcome. The outcome is this marketing, the outcome is the development of tourism. I consider this important because the way the inventorying will go on, the resources you're going to allocate has to do with what are you going to do with that. So it is this a research project, for example, so you need a full inventorying, etc., or is it all inventorying for some specific purposes? So before you start any kind of inventorying, it is important to bear in mind what is the end result of that. This was something very interesting. And the question on my part, I think you showed two videos, to the best of my knowledge. The first was kind of full, the second one was part. What was the source? Who crafted the first video? Was it the tourism agency?
That was the local community that we mentioned as collaborator, Kesengsem Lasem, the one that has been working on online social media presence and engagement.
That was a very good video. In fact,
It was.
video.
Yes, because one of the members is a photographer for National Geographic Indonesia.
I got it.
Yeah, so
that was a very professional. Bear
yeah.
that in mind. That was a very professional video. And since this is a member of the local community, this means that there are members of the local community that can run such projects. Because always bear in mind, no matter how high your end result is that there should be some people from the local community that can make that happen. Otherwise, it will be just, on a report or in paper. So people like the guy who made this video can run and help to this project. Bear that in mind. That was a very, very good video. I was about to start to interrupt you and ask, why was that so good? Okay, thank you. Any other question that would like
May I just share a very interesting information? In 1920-25, Rabindranath Tagore sent Shantidev Ghosh to Bali to learn Balinese dancing, but he also picked up batik. And now batik has become a sort of folk art in Shantiniketan, Tagore's university area in Birbhum. But this is the amazing way that one tradition can be transmitted from one country to another. Thank you.
That's an amazing remark. Thank you, Lupna, because what makes batik lasam exquisite for us is also the acculturation that is embedded in that. It comes from also Chinese tradition and also picked up a couple from Dutch tradition. So that's why it's different.
Angela, a final remark from you that you would like to say something?
Well, I think like Faisha already gave all the beautiful answers, so I don't need to add some more. But thank you so much for all of the remarks and question, and also nice information, Ms. Lupna.
Yes.
Thank you. Barbie, back to you.
Okay, that was a wonderful presentation, Angela and Faiza. Next, we have Mridusmita from India, who is going to talk about safeguarding intangible cultural heritage of the tea community of Assam, with special reference to Jhumur, which is the folk dance and the folk songs. Mridusmita.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. So I'll be talking on the ICHCAP, safeguarding of ICHCAP of the tea community of Assam with special reference to Jhumur, folk dance and songs. So first I will just show you a short video. Yes, so talking about the tea community of Assam, Assam is a small state in the northeast India region, and there are almost more than 40 to 30 to 40 ethnic groups are situated in Assam, and it is one of the leading tea producing states of the country. And Assam is very famous in the global market because of the tea that it has been producing since a long past. It has a heritage of more than 100 years. So back in 1823, the tea plants were first discovered in Assam lands. A village chief of the Singpho community and other local called Maniram Dewan, they were first pointed about the availability of tea plants in Assam to the British officials to the colonial government, and the commercial cultivation started under the British government in 1837, because in that time the British government were in search of an alternative to the already producing tea which was produced in China, and with the discovery in Assam, the commercial cultivation under the British government started in 1837. Then when it was started, the first they appointed the skilled Chinese laborers. Those were imported from China, and the local Assamese people also. And first problem they were facing was the shortage of labor and shortage of infrastructure. So what they were started doing is to import the cheap laborers from the other colonial states. Like in 1850s, the first attempt was started, and from other states like Andhra Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, present Chhattisgarh, Bengal, Orissa, Bihar, and Jharkhand. And they are from different ethnic backgrounds and different communities like Mundas and Gonds, Santal, Bhumis, Goalas, and Kurmis and Murias. They are also living in other states also, and till the present time. However, while interviewing one community resource person for this project, I came across the fact that there is a records of presence of a portion of this community prior to this period also. I have to search a little bit more about this fact, but yeah. So these are the objectives of this proposal, to document this elements of ICS present in this community, and with special reference to this Jhumur, and create awareness of the elements of ICS in this community, and recognize the issues of concerns in this present time, and to look out if there is any potential of this sustainable development in this case. In present day Assam, maximum of this tea community is living in the upper Brahmaputra Valley, and where most of the tea gardens, more than half of the tea gardens are located, and as some amount of this community can be found in Barak Valley of the state, and there are more than 800. The exact number is 803, and plus some small growers which are coming up in this in the present time are can be found, and these tea garden communities, majority of these tea garden communities are living inside the tea gardens, which the residential colonies, these are called lines, and some of these community people are also living outside the gardens and adjoining villages and nearby areas. And these people are called Adivasi tea community, or the Cha Janajati in Assam, and more than 20% of the state population consists of the tea tribe in present Assam. So some observed elements are their religious practices. This is Hinduism, and they are day by day, they are in today's time, they are converting themselves to Christianity. So a small population of Christianity also is there, and language, which is a mixed, I can say, so type of language with some Assamese influence to it, some Bengali and Hindu influences also is there. So Sadri, Munda, and Maria is like of language they speak, and the communities living in different tea gardens, their language is slightly different to each other, and there are some festivals like Karam Puja, Tushu Puja, Fagua, and different type of pujas like the Durga Puja, Mansa, and all these, and their performing arts are the chosen element, which is Jhumur, and some other games and festivals also they have, and so on. So my proposal is to safeguard these Jhumur songs and folk songs and dance of this community. So Jhumur is a traditional form of folk song and dance which is found and originated in these tea garden communities. Jhumur song and dance can be also seen in other states also, other ethnic groups like Santals, and in Bengal, Bihar, Orissa, we can see the presence of Jhumur tradition. And this dance is performed during different festivals and ceremonies, and in these gardens also, and in other times also they perform these things. And based on this use of this folk song and variation of dance forms, there is total around 6 variations can be seen in this Jhumur tradition. So Jhumur songs are the core element of this Jhumur. Jhumur songs are the core element of this Jhumur tradition, and this actually highlights their journey of their migration, their hard labor, their work nature, and their different elements of their lives, and their also the kind of oppression and sufferings they have faced in course of time. And this the journey of these garden workers and their origin through colonial administration, and it is kept alive through these Jhumur songs, and this the whole story is relevant till today, and till today they have been performing these songs and dancing in the beats of these songs and musical instruments. So Jhumur dance is particularly done with the young girls, and they hold each other's wigs like this. The manner is shown in this picture, and in such way they make a row, and then they dance, moving their legs forward and backward in beats of drums and songs. And accompanied music costumes they wear is you have seen in this picture. It is very simple, but it's very unique, but it is simple. And this is this white sari and having a red broad border and with very minimal motifs, and they generally adorn themselves with fresh flowers, fresh leaves of tree, and simple jewelries, and they hold red handkerchiefs on hand, and often they wear some forehead ornaments also. And man can be seen in simple traditional attire, which is a kurta, upper garment, and dhoti as a lower garment. And other musical instruments, these are accompanied in the Jhumur dance is the whole. It is called madal, and the manjira and flute, and etc. These are some photographs. These are I have taken this from this foundation. They are organizing a Swedish festival called Seri Festival, an initiative to promote the tea garden community of Assam. I have taken some photographs from their official website, so I have also given the courtesy. So what I observed although it is a folk tradition, it is performed inside Assam and during some religious festivals, marriage ceremonies, and other folk festivals. There are some Jhumur practitioners who are very dedicatedly working in this to keep this tradition alive. Which one of these Jhumur practitioner is also recently conferred with the Padma Shri Award, which is the fourth highest civilian award in India, Dulal Manki. And today representatives from the tea communities are involved in different sectors in development of art and culture and literature in Assam, and we also can see the representation of this community in literature and in movies and cinema, and some of the Bollywood movies also in the past. But there are some impact of modernization can also be seen in this tradition, for which there is some change in the authentic form of this folk form, and there are multiple cultural heritage which have already vanished. They have a very unique tradition of tattooing with the body art, and they have a tradition of wall art decorations, wall painting decorations. This all are going slowly. In other states also we can see the relevance of Jhumur. and I have framed a methodology for this proposal. So some community members have already been interviewed for till now, and I am targeting to consult some more, and as much as possible, I mean to say, and consult community will be the tea community from, and the ex-tea garden community from the middle and upper part of Assam, and partners can be the organizations who are closely working with these communities, Jhumur singers and performers and authors who are working in this tea garden language, which is Sadri, and some NGOs, district administrations, tea community students. There are the multiple tea community students associations in Assam, so we can be partners with them as well. And estimated timeline would be the minimum of 8 months.
Ridhusmita, I would request you to wrap up in a minute or
yes,
two. Yeah.
Yeah, it is the last slide actually. So the expected outcome to create an I'll be trying to create an online database of the and the record of this authentic folk form of Jhumur songs, and we will try to locate this Jhumur folk form, the real Jhumur practitioners, and document their art, and we can establish a way of sustainable development of this artists and the community that will equally promote their art and support in terms of safeguarding the art form. And this is the last slide. So can I just read out, or should I wrap up? Yes.
Thank you for
I think we can read it.
Yeah.
Presentation.
Yeah.
Any questions
Yeah,
or
these
remarks?
are some. Yes.
Any questions or remarks?
Can I make a quick comment or suggestion?
Yes.
How about thinking of the tea garden itself as a collaborator? Because I saw you have different other stakeholders, but not the tea garden itself. So the garden company or initiative, whatever.
Yes, I have mentioned about the Jhumur practitioners who are from the tea garden community actually. Those who are practicing this art form, these people are from the these people are the tea garden members, and those who I have already consulted, they are also from the tea garden community. One of them is an author of Assamese literature, but he is from the tea garden community.
Right. No, but I want tea garden, the managerial entity, whatever it is. I don't know what is in Assam. Do you have like a company or something?
Yeah, the managerial entity is. There is the small growers. They are independent, but under the state ownership. But yes,
so that's the board, or the individual big industries. Yes.
Yeah, there is a board, and there are tea gardens under which English tea companies. They are still handling most of the old tea gardens. So yeah.
Thank you. Lubna?
I just wanted to mention that this is a cross-border multi-country practice, because we have the same thing in our tea gardens as has India. So that could also be thought of, to do a cross-border survey.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, definitely, yes.
Other remarks? Comments? Something on my part, it would be interesting to, as you mentioned, there are several similar traditions that are fading out or even vanishing.
Yes.
So it would be interesting to start from the end and have a better understanding of why these traditions are fading. And also, based on the comment of Lubna, is this the same situation in neighboring countries that have that share this tradition? And try to find an even more targeted project. So link inventorying to a more specific targeted project that would help to this safeguarding, because we talk about urbanization, we talk about commodification, we talk about all this, but try to find something more targeted into that, so that you can help the local the community there. That would be on my part. Because sometimes it is important that we start from the end.
Thank you very much for your...
Yeah, not from our part, but what goes wrong at the end of the day, at the end of the process. And based on that, modify our strategy.
I think he has lost internet connection. So thank you, Mridusmita, for that wonderful presentation. Next, we have Mark from Philippines, who is going to talk about the blacksmithing tradition in Pampanga.
Hi, good day. This is Louis Luge from the Philippines. I am presenting a project component proposal working on a community of practice of blacksmithing in my hometown, Apalit, where I am currently in at present. My entire presentation is pre-recorded, starting with a short compilation of clips on the process of producing the blades, which will be followed by the actual proposal. Given the time limit, many of the details of the proposal had to be truncated, so please feel free to ask questions about the details at the end of the presentation. I shall be playing the video. Hello, good day. This is Mark Louis Luge from the Philippines, and I am here to present a project component proposal entitled Facilitating Workshops with Community of Practice of Pamagpande, or Blacksmithing in Apalit, Pampanga. The Pamagpande tradition of Apalit, Pampanga has been one of the prominent cottage industries in the town since the colonial period. Certain oral accounts imply that this practice may have originated from the metallurgical practice of 16th century cannon maker Panday Pira, who resided in the town after fleeing a battle from Manila. Earliest ethnographic research, however, can be traced to the efforts of the students of H. Otley Bayer in 1913. According to the earliest ethnographic manuscript on the practice, although men are usually involved in the actual making of the palang or the blade, due to the extensive physical demand of the process, women and children also participate in the industry by assisting in dividing the charcoal into small pieces, distributing the products, and even completing the articles in the palang. The manuscript also stated that the operations of the practice had to start from 4 o'clock in the morning and ends at around 8 o'clock in the evening due to high demand. Hence, it can be argued that it was once a communal activity that is intertwined with the lives of many in the town, partly because of how it was able to support livelihood then. These highlights the economic, historical, and social significance of the practice since decades ago. The liveliness of the practice was primarily due to the predominance of agriculture in the province and the region where the town belongs. However, due to the changes in society through the succeeding decades, most especially those related to urbanization, industrialization, and the allure of other lucrative professions, and the influx of cheaper alternatives, mostly from foreign countries, the practice of Pamagpande has gradually diminished. At present, the town is left with only 2 pandayan, or forge, actively being used by 4 practitioners in the town. The only master blacksmith left is at his 70s already and have already suffered mild stroke, aside from other ailments. Amid this economic and personal condition, he continues to perform Pamagpande still at least once a week. The project, hence, is in the long run aimed at ensuring the viability of the practice of Pamagpande in the town of Apalit. This is a challenging yet interesting case, given how closely intertwined the tradition is with its economics, possibly since the products are primarily utilitarian in nature. Given how labor extensive it is, where it takes decades before someone gets to be considered a maestro or a lead blacksmith, and how through the decline of the number of its practitioners, the tradition was once shared between a community, has gradually turned into individualized creative practices. The component of the project that will be detailed out in this document dwells on preliminary steps, focusing on the assessment of the as-is condition of the tradition vis-a-vis various aspects of its economic, cultural, and political environments through community workshops, as means to evaluate the potential of the tradition to persist sustainably and to instill responsible ownership of the tradition within the community. Preliminary research through archival literature and fieldwork have been performed to attain a suitable high-level understanding of the practice to be able to craft a workshop plan that is localized enough to a degree that is productive to the aim of the project. The practice of pamagpande primarily produces blades of various sizes, shapes, and uses, and the size and shapes often depend on their use. For instance, the curve of the pambalat is used to easily remove the skin of the pig, which is used for a local delicacy called chicharon. The demand for the various designs of the palang depends on its uses as well, some in relation to agricultural cycle. The goal of the workshops to assess the as-is condition of the practice vis-a-vis its various environments shall be performed by providing a platform for the Panday and their immediate communities to discuss this intangible cultural heritage property and its various environments more deliberately amongst themselves, which may not have happened before yet, probably because they find themselves too immersed in it to the point that the practice seems self-evident. The output of these workshops would allow the participants to be informed of the condition of the practice, and this is envisioned to consequently lead them to come up with a position and a decision as to the community's future directions pertaining to the tradition. The intended audience of the workshops are the following. Given the dwindling demand for the palang, it is easy to assume that the competition between the two pandayan is steep. Implicitly, through the workshop, the panday and their families get to interact with each other in the hopes of fostering some form of a communal familiarity, if not bond among them. As only the Maestro Panday was interviewed for the preliminary research for this document, it is imperative that the proponent interviews the other panday to glean at the social relations within the ecology, most especially the dynamics between the four panday. This will equip the proponent, who will also be the facilitator of the workshops, with a knowledge of the dynamics between them so that he can be sensitive about where the insights shared by the panday and their families would be coming from. Structure-wise, there will be 3 workshops, ideally performed in one day. If it's not possible, they can be performed on different dates, but should be done in order. The first 2 workshops set the practice within the context of its environments, cultural for the first one, and business and political for the second one. The third workshop is intended to allow the participants to envision a future of the practice, to give them the platform to contribute to this ideation, allowing them to feel greater ownership of the practice. This workshop is also practical, given that these dreams can be contrasted with what has been previously discussed in the 2 other workshops, which may result to ideas on how to move forward. In the first workshop, the intent is to analyze the practice in relation to its cultural environment. Specifically, the project finds it crucial that the community establishes within itself, number 1, what local values they perceive to be where the practice is grounded in, and number 2, what other cultural traditions and knowledges are associated with it. Given this workshop will take off from these concepts of roots and fruits of the practice, but will also expand them to cover cultural properties associated with the practice. The first part focuses on the former, while the second part focuses on the latter. In the first part, 3 prompts will be asked from the participants. Each part deals with various aspects of the practice: the product, the maker, and the entirety of the process or practice itself. It is imperative to gather local concepts and terminologies that appear to be important as the participants share their answers. And the prompts are: what characteristics make a good palang or the product? What skills and characteristics make a good panday or the maker? And what are the core aspects or attributes of the practice of pamagpande? In the second part, the cultural ecology where the practice of pamagpande resides will be mapped through connecting it with other cultural properties. Given that the practice of is a step-by-step process, it may be best to approach it as such in the workshop. The associated cultural properties that were mentioned by the participants shall be drawn alongside this diagram in the whiteboard to connect it with the practice visually. These properties may also be connected with other associated properties, creating a web of cultural properties on the board. For instance, the local knowledge of agricultural and low crop cycles has historically allowed the Panday to predict demand for specific designs of the palang. Hence, it will be connected to the first step in this diagram. Also, the palang are often distributed through festivals, both within the town or even elsewhere, in that they are used with other practices of making, such as culinary dishes, which the province is also very known for, which can be connected to the last step in this diagram. Now we move on to the second workshop. In management studies, the Porter's 5 forces model is used to analyze the competitive forces that shape the industry, with specific focus on the business or economic and to some degree political environment. These forces are as follows: threat of entry, threat of substitutes, bargaining power of buyers, bargaining power of suppliers, and intensity of rivalry. The goal here is to examine what specific forces do not help in facilitating a healthier pamagpande industry and to address them. Given that the goal is not to intensify the monopoly or oligopoly of the current pandays, the concept of healthy industry lies on how pamagpande can be more collectively practiced in the community. Guide questions shall lead the discussion of these 5 forces. It should be noted that there are specific questions that may touch on sensitive topics among panday, considering that they themselves can be considered competitors to each other. The last workshop takes off from the topic from strategic management, wherein organizations are asked to envision a BHAG, or a big, hairy, audacious goal. For this workshop, each participant will be given a bond paper where in 15 minutes, they can draw or write about their vision of the practice of pamagpande in a palette in the next 20 years. The instruction given to the participants should be general to ensure that they exercise their creativity and imagination more. Through this exercise, the participants would be more involved in the process of ideating, if not shaping, the future of the practice of pamagpande. This may also help in encouraging commitment among panday to work together for some common goal, even if they themselves can be considered competitors to each other. After the workshops, these are the possible trajectories for safeguarding the practice of pamagpande that I can enumerate considering the preliminary research that I have done previously. Strengthening the relationship between pamagpande and the culinary practice that is strong in the province is one possibility. To augment the demand for the products produced through this practice, it might be necessary to expand the market that they tap, considering that the province has a strong association with food, and since food preparation is an important industry therein, leveraging on how the products of the practice can help this associated industry may help. This should involve the expertise of industrial designers in the production of palang designs that specifically cater to kitchen procedures that are not efficiently addressed yet by conventional knives. Second, research on the incubation program for new panday and pandayan. Given the long period of equipping individuals with knowledge and skills in pamagpande, it is vital that the government or other entities may support them temporarily. What kind and amount of support this is requires a careful study that in the end aims at the sustainability of the practice itself, so that one day the industry would not need external help anymore. And lastly, partnerships with educational institutions to ensure familiarity with the practice and even allow acquisition of skills related to the practice. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mark. That was a wonderful presentation, and thank you for pre-recording and keeping it to the time. We are now open for questions, comments.
Mark, if you could unshare your screen.
Yeah.
Yes, that's great. So any comments, questions? While waiting for that, let me just make a remark. I think some of these practices are seen in some parts of the world, at least I can connect to Nepal and perhaps in South Asia, are not really looked upon. They are looked down in the society. That's been the sort of social issue. But I think your project really inspires, ICH and the safeguarding measures connecting to the Sustainable Development Goals might also be, a way to address some of our social issues and misconceptions and really, tapping onto that. So really wonderful. Thank you very much. Comments, questions? Yes, Kamal, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. It's very interesting presentation and skill. My small question is there any traditional practices to mining the iron from nature and the purification? In Nepal, we had, and our people used, but now is that the practice and skill is disappear, but the mining space is still in the remaining. That's my question. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for your question, Kamal. Actually, that's also the reason why in one of the parts of the workshops, there is an effort for me together with the community to track down or to map the other cultural elements that are related to the practice, considering how, based on my preliminary interview with the Mestru Pande or the master blacksmith, that they only order scrap metal in junk shops. So that's basically their source of raw materials. Considering my province and the region it's in, it is a very flat area. So it's actually called the rice granary of the Philippines, considering that a majority of our geological formations are really flatlands. Considering that, I think it's quite difficult for people here to actually acquire sources for metals, which are usually from the mountains, if I'm not mistaken. So probably this particular practice, if there is something that is placed elsewhere, not really in the region or the province where I'm in. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, raw material itself becomes an issue in many craft sector. That's been an issue. Thanks, Mark. Now, Dr. Han.
Yeah, just quickly related to what both Neil and Kamal said, we recently have the same youth forum in Laos, and one group also developed a project particularly about the blacksmith. And in that village, there's only one blacksmith left still working. And the biggest issue is also raw material. So I think that is quite a common problem. So I'm glad that you already addressed that in your workshop. But I saw that in your workshop, you only have the audience of the families who are practicing it, like the master and the people who are practicing it, and of course like government and stuff. So I wonder if there would be a way to maybe include some people who are knowledgeable about all these materials and that kind of stuff, because unless we have that guaranteed, and the practice would be no way that it can live on, right? So we probably need to address that from early days in your intervention.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Han, for your suggestion. I'll seriously consider that.
Okay. Yes, I think what Dr. Han mentioned is really important point, because that opens up another set of venues to promote, but also to inspire others and develop something. Any other comments or questions? Okay, if not, I think I would thank Mark for the wonderful preparation, and thanks for particularly keeping in mind the timing issue and being so prepared for this. Thank you very much.
So yes, next up we have Ahana from India. She is going to talk about documenting Bhatiyali folk songs of Bengal as ICH.
So I'll be presenting on Bhatiyali, which is a musical tradition of Bengal. It is both the East and the West Bengal, which is Bangladesh now. Okay, I'll just continue as I've written here. It's safeguarding Bhatiyali folk tradition as ICH. I'll just start with the etymology and origin. Bhatiyali is derived basically from this word Joar Bhata, which is a Bangla word which kind of signifies the receding and advancing tides of a river stream. It is symbolized by the downstream tide of the rivers Ganga and Brahmaputra, whose streams and rivulets are plied by the boatsmen singers of Bhatiyali. Unlike classic music and classical music, the folk genre is not tied to any rigid categories based on ragas, It is sung solo or with an instrument often, but the tones are usually high, muted, or lower subdued notes, creating a dynamic rhythm. It's rooted in the indigenous culture that developed along the eastern coastal boundary of India and Bangladesh, the riverine basin of Ganga, which is basically the eastern trajectory of the Indian Ocean. The songs, hymns, and alliterations that make up the genre of Bhatiyali were composed or strung together as recreations from orally transmitted wordplays or anecdotes, conversations of people, Gitikas or ballads passed down from elders or gayans or wandering singers and minstrels. So the character of Bhatiyali, it's a very free-flowing character. It is not rigid and bound within certain norms or certain rules. And as a result, because it was developed by what we call the subaltern or the underprivileged, the marginalized sections of society, their tradition was removed from the classically practiced music forms. And as a result, its nature is not something which has the nature and the songs or the way it is sung. These have not been theorized or have not been, created as like a dogma which people can practice. Rather, it is something you learn from hearing. So there's a lot of stress on the oral nature of this genre. And the reception in Bengal and beyond, originating but not restricted to Mymensingh district of erstwhile East Bengal. Its name is derived from Bhati or Bhata, the lower banks of the rivers. Initially, there were 14 styles and subjects of composition. The Deha Tattva, or the physical and the mind-body connection. The Mushit Tattva, basically it was composed around the Guru, or maybe it was depicting the life of a Guru. And Prakriti Tattva, Prakriti as in the songs were sung about nature or natural elements, which the boatsmen or the fishermen kind of encountered as they took the journey across the ocean through the rivers. It gained popularity and focus outside the community. So these three types, the Deha Tattva, Mushit Tattva, and Prakriti Tattva, they gained greater popularity outside of the community. The songs or alliterations were based on many moods of the river, its changing trajectory and its relationship to those whose livelihoods depended on its benevolence. The initial performers and inheritor of this musical heritage and knowledge system were part of the subaltern or Dalit spectrum. Their professions as boatmen, fishermen, or farmers, they were considered untouchables or melecha, which is it's a derogatory term. Defined it's kind of used to identify people who are of an ambiguous religious or caste identity. These oppressed communities express their love, divinity, sexuality, and fear with the descending and meandering notes of Bhatiyali. Sung solo or with a threadbare stringed instrument like dotara, the music contained the pathos of the community's lived experience. However, around the 1900s, a prominent city-based academician, Dinesh Chandra Sen, who was from Kolkata, he was teaching at the University of Calcutta with the assistance of researcher Chandra Kumar Dev. He was based in Bangladesh, erstwhile East Bengal, initiated a process of domestication. So what they did was they went to the villages of the communities who were the inheritor of this knowledge, and they just took the songs from them, took it as a sort of like a free verse recording, and then they made changes and alterations for the city-based readership that Dinesh Chandra Sen was working for. As I have said here, sorry, wait, what is happening? How can I go back? Oh God, something happened. Yeah. What do I do? Sorry. 1930s, 40s, and 50s were considered the heyday of composition and dissemination of Bhatiyali as an alternative music tradition of Purba Banga, which is basically East Bengal, still actively tied to its core identity as a folk ballad genre of marginalized caste and religious communities, with singers like Ukil Munshi, Rashiduddin, Jasimuddin composing, singing, and popularizing the form in the city. From 1960s and 70s onward, the trend continued with filmmakers and composers of the popular or experimental avant-garde cinema like Bimal Roy, Ritik Ghatok, Meenal Sen, Rajen Tarofdar, who used the music of S.D. Burman, Kalyanji Anandji, Sholil Chaudhary in films like Bondini, Neel Akashe Niche, Safar, who made the Bhatiyali genre kind of something that the city-based elite academic or the city-based popular culture could relate to. Timeline of the influence. So I have charted sort of like a thing. It's 1800s, orally disseminated folk ballads on river, wilderness, metaphors of mortality, love, and separation. So before the 1800s, the Bhatiyali songs were orally disseminated as folk ballads. The songs were mostly on the river and the wilderness, metaphors of mortality, that is death, and love and separation upon death. Some of the themes that were continuously alluded to by the boatsmen. From 1920s onward, with the first publication of the movement Shinho Gitika, as I had mentioned before, it was the first published anthology of folk ballads. So it kind of got written down from its oral nature before. 1930s and 40s, Ukil Munshi and his Murshid Rashid Ali, they kind of enriched the genre both in East and West Bengal, which was it was united at that point of time. But after the 1947, composers and singers like S.D. Burman, Hemango Bishwas, Sholil Chaudhary popularized the genre through films and albums. 1960s and 70s onwards, things like Meghe Dhaka Tara, Ganga, Bondini, they critically brought critical acclaim to the genre and to the nature of the music that kind of the community that the music originated from. So this is a still from Meghe Dhaka Tara. I have provided YouTube links to the songs in both these films, the Bhatiyali songs. And then I have also provided links from films. So this is a still from Meghe Dhaka Tara, which used O Majhi Tor Naam Janina, which is a song that Meghe Dhaka Tara used. Which is a Bhatiyali song. It was composed by, I think, S.D. Burman. And then there is Bandini, this song, O Mere Majhi Mere Sajan Hai. This song is also composed by S.D. Burman. Both these songs are sort of like examples of how and Bhatiyali music came to be appropriated in the popular culture of Hindi film industry. And I have also provided a song link of Jasimuddin. This song uses his lyric. The singer is Abdul Alim. I have provided a link for that as well. I don't know how much time I have, so I may not be able to play them. But if anyone is interested, I can forward them the links. The songs are really beautiful. They are not very heard, like they're not kind of well known either of these films. So I would really appreciate if people take the time and reach out and like just get these things, the links. The songs are really beautiful. So I have focused on the element of my proposal, which is the systemization of Bhatiyali, how Bhatiyali was incorporated into the high culture and how it declined in popularity in popular cultural memory after the 1970s. So I have written down a couple of points of saying that 1980s onwards, the trajectory shifts from the practitioners of the form to those who collect, translate, and anthologize over 30 different versions of Bhatiyali Geet. Ethnographic study systematically attempts to chronologize the dissemination, source, reception, and influence of this musical genre. Being folk in character, Bhatiyali lacks linearity and a hegemonic language scheme. Thus, its many numerous translations and variations in academia is subjected to semantic modifications and alterations in syntax, rhyme scheme, use of hyperbole and metaphors. Linguistic motifs and expressions in the oral versions are considered crude or culturally ambiguous, and as a result, they were removed haphazardly in an attempt at domestication of the Bhatiyali content. High culture refers to the pattern of cultural practices and structural attitudes of the dominant sections of the society. In Indian society post-1970s, cultural patterns of the dominant class caste were molded to a great extent by the West in Europe. Thus, the horizon of expectation of the target readership or audience of Bharti Ali came to be guided by European ideas of morality, factual authenticity, linearity, etc., all of which acted in the process of appropriation. Decline happened as popular cinema and music turned away from Bharti Ali as a commendable source of musical or lyrical inspiration. From 1990s onward, as popular knowledge about Bharti Ali dwindled, new singers like Bhupen Hazarika, R.D. Burman, Hemangu Biswas turned it into a musical lyrical trope about rivers and their connection to nation, nationality, culture, and regionalism. Influence on popular culture is representative of the subversive nature of any appropriated musical, literary, artistic genre. Therefore, the decline of Bharti Ali's cultural memory as a musical form practiced by indigenous and Dalit Bahujan communities, whose prominence and popularity in the 1970s depended on its nature as a song, reflective of the trials and travails, tribulations and existential anguish of the working class, marginalized people, resulted in the cultural loss of its ethical and literal core. So as popular culture loses, the value and loses Bharti Ali as a cultural memory, as a form of music which the indigenous and Dalit communities performed, what happens is its core, its ethical and literary core is lost. And what happens as a result is that the folk origins of Deha Tattva philosophy, ambiguous caste and religious character reminiscent of the Bhakti and Sufi traditions, these occurrences result in the prolonged academic theorizations, demote the practical significance of the genre, creating a vacuum at the grassroots level where the practitioners have dwindled starkly, and so has the learning. So the people who actually practice the genre from the place, from the communities that give birth to the genre of Bharti Ali, because they have been continuously marginalized, and due to the extreme theorization that has occurred post 1970s, there has been a big disconnect from popular cultural memory, which has resulted in the loss of the environment where Bharti Ali thrived. And my attempt through this proposal or through this presentation is to bring attention to how the areas and the regions and the livelihoods of the people who work with these communities, or the people who keep alive these traditions, can be kept intact over the years and in the coming times. So I have made a study, a graph of systemization of Bharti Ali as a genre. As we can see, 1930s and 50s, reception and dissemination was high. 1950s, 60s onwards, dissemination is high as well. But yes,
I'm sorry. One, you have around 2 minutes to wrap up, and two,
yes,
we are still not able to see the change of the slide. So perhaps you can click, yeah.
Yes, I'll just do that again. I'm so sorry.
Yes.
Can you see now?
Yes, 7
okay.
Yeah.
So this is basically a graph that I have created on the systemization of Bharti Ali as a genre, the reception and dissemination, influence and popularity, appropriation and institutionalization are broken down in four decades. So the 1930s to 50s, 1950s to 70s, 1970s to 1900s, and 2000. So as we can see that the reception and dissemination is going down starkly from the 1930s to the 2000. The influence and popularity is also starkly going down. Appropriation and institutionalization, on the other hand, is at an all-time high in the 2000, that is in the contemporary age, because we have secluded ourselves so much as a nation and as a culture from the lived experiences of the oppressed, of the marginalized people, that we have lost the urge of appreciation of the reception and influence that it had from its origin to its current, the way it was sung before, the way it was used in films and albums before. People listened to it as a form of musical expression of the working class people. But however, extreme academic infiltration has resulted in a stark loss of the dissemination and influence of Bhatiyali outside the corridors of academia and high culture. Can you see the next slide? Is it visible?
No.
It isn't.
Yes, now it is.
Now. Okay, so I have mentioned some of the people in the contemporary period who are still practicing Bhatiyali as it is meant to be practiced, with a connect to the people and the livelihoods that it is meant to safeguard. So this Rongili Biswas, she's the daughter of the late Hemangu Biswas, has helped revive and bring focus onto the absent practice of Bhatiyali as a living ICH in need of safeguarding and practical learning. I have provided a link to her YouTube song, to her on YouTube. If anyone is interested, they can also check that out. She's working closely with Shahapedia and Kahun. They are archive journals. Wait, I just, sorry about that. There is Nina Hamid. She's a folk singer of Bangladesh. She's done a commendable work to safeguard and revitalize Bhatiyali songs and melodies as a practitioner and not just as a theoretician. She has revived the lyrics of one of the most renowned Bhatiyali lyricist and archivist, Jasimuddin, who was also a poet in popular cultural memory through her albums Uzan Gangar Naya, Jawab, and I have also put a link to her songs as well. Shourav Muni is also a folk singer from South Bengal who specializes in Bhatiyali Shongit. He's doing a lot of tireless work to bring focus onto the humble roots of the musical genre. He has collaborated with Coke Studio and done live shows. I have provided the link to his songs as well. Now I'm just concluding my presentation. So I have just put up a few points. The continuation and revitalization of Bhatiyali is necessary as it is emblematic of the spirit of the nation in its quest to survive against the odds of colonization, globalization, and capitalism, none of which gives space to the alternate reality of the third world lived experience of working class people. Western critical theory and notions of high culture have disrupted the traditional and syncretic culture of knowledge dissemination, heritage preservation through oral continuation, dependence on factual accuracy, historiographic, genealogic, thematic, hierarchization, data-based, rigid methodology has hampered the indigenous culture of retention of cultural and social memory through word of mouth. Instead, in a country where half the population is illiterate, based on Western modes of learning, the written word has been prioritized, thus taking away the oral autonomy of the people at the grassroots. The high culture academic appropriation of Bhatiyali folk genre has destabilized its practice and patronization at the level of the subaltern Dalit and indigenous communities, whose stories and modes of alliteration gave rise to the genre in the first place. As villages, towns, and livelihoods of these historically oppressed communities of boatsmen, fishermen, and farmers are uprooted due to encroaching city-based modernity and climate change, people at the helm of protecting this intangible cultural heritage need safeguarding, and so do their traditional ways of living. Although modernity has this advantage, it fails to take cognizance of the ambiguity in multiplicity and ends up generalizing distinct cultural practices and their intrinsic values to contemporary living. Thus, there is thus a great need of information dissemination by focusing at the grassroots level to work with communities who have historically practiced the ways of life that nurture the growth of the musical genre through relief aids, sensitized community work, understanding of their livelihood and culture through intense active interaction, efforts to sustain the delicate environment of river bodies, volunteering government schemes aimed at the communities, etc. That's it. I can share the song links if anyone wishes to hear them, get to know them better. Yeah, that's it. Yes.
So thank you for the presentation. Any remarks, any thoughts on the presentation?
Can I just humbly ask, Hana, have you ever visited the wetlands of Bengal?
Yes, my family is from East Bengal, Dhaka, Bikrampur. I have
last visit.
I have an extended family living in Kuch Bihar.
When have you visited?
Well, I visited in 2020, if you are interested to know.
Yeah, because I just feel that you are talking of two different genres of song. One is the urbanized genre of Bhatiyali, and another is what is practiced in the...
That was my aim, because Bhatiyali...
Bhatiyali is hugely popular within the Har community and the wetlands. And
but
they
then-
are, let me just finish. They are not aware of Josimuddin. They are not aware of Himangu Bishwas. They are not aware of whatever has happened in Hollywood or Bollywood. But there, it is hugely practiced.
Okay.
It's just that we have distanced ourselves from our people. The urban centers of South Asia are so very distanced from the practices in the marginalized communities that we feel that it is declining. The other thing I feel that you have said somewhere, the language is becoming crude. The language has always been what it has been, and it has never been crude. That is the language they speak in. I would request you not to use the word crude at all.
Actually, Lubna, I'm so sorry if you misunderstood me, because my aim through the presentation was to bring notice to the work done in academia, at least in India, at least where I stay, where people like Dinesh Chandra Sen and through works.
I am very much aware of the work of Dinesh Chandra Sen and Himangu Bishwas and Goshami Bhomi, but it is we are again talking of two different genres of singing. One is the urbanized genre of Bhatiyali, and one is what is being sung within the community themselves. You have to work with the communities.
Yes, so the community itself, at least where I stay in Bengal, that is the West Bengal, in areas like Kuch Bihar, Nodia, Jhargram, and also in areas of near Sundarban, when I have visited the communities and I have asked them to share or to come to my university and present.
Why should they come to your university? You go there.
Lubna, may I coordinate the discussion kindly? Yes. So the question that Lubna raises is that sometimes it is important that we get closer to the community in order to understand the different types, etc., of intangible heritage. Because sometimes we think that an intangible heritage is more unified, but there are several types of that, depending, of course, in the conditions. So it is important that we, first of all, we get to the community and work with the community in order to be able to identify the changes within the community itself in connection with the intangible heritage. Is there any other, Lubna? This is fine. I think the message was conveyed.
The distinction has to be made between what is practiced by the community and what is being urbanized.
I have mentioned that
Fine.
the
Is there any other remark?
And do not use the word crude for what the languages that
I have not used that word. Dinesh Chandra Sen and the likes of
may
him.
kindly ask that I continue with my role as the coordinator of this discussion.
Okay.
Lubna, you made a very valid point. The point was conveyed, was fully conveyed, not only to the presenter, but also to the whole group, because it is important not only to focus on each intangible heritage element, but to draw conclusions that are applicable to every case. So the conclusion that was drawn through this remark, very interesting remark of Lubna, is that we need to work very closely to the communities, because there are changes going on that it might be very difficult to identify otherwise. And allow me to make a reference to this COVID period that we are going through. Within this COVID period, especially in dynamic, but also sometimes fragile elements, heritage elements, like intangible heritage elements, it is very, very important to work closely with the community, because these changes might be underlying, nobody sees them, and then after some period of time, one might see whole intangible heritage elements vanishing out, fading out, or even being vanished, and one could not see them because the changes were happening underlying. So it is very important to focus on the community and work with the community. Is there any other remark, any other comment that we would like to make on this interesting presentation? On my part, I would be a bit concerned with the use of the term systematization, especially when it comes to intangible heritage. Try not to overuse that, because sometimes it might be against the very nature of intangible heritage that it is. So one might use the term like mapping, recording, or something like that, but try to avoid systematization. Any other questions, any other remarks that you would like to raise? Okay,
I would like
thank you very
to
much.
clarify something before this thing is done. So throughout this presentation, I was trying to bring the focus on the fact that there are practitioners of this art like Rongili Biswas, like Meena Hamid, like Shourav Muni, who are practicing it with at the grassroots level with the people who are actually involved with the community. The crudeness, and I have only mentioned it about the translations that have been made of Bhatiyali Shongit or Bhatiyali poetry, which have been sort of anthologized into Gitikas or ballads, and a lot of free-flowing translations have been made. And the reason that they have given for removing certain words or certain expressions is that the translators had thought that the language in the original language was too crude for the people who the target readers.
You are making the same mistake
Okay.
again.
Can I?
For me to
Rekha,
decide what is crude
hang
and
on
what
a
is
minute.
not crude.
Sorry. Lubna, may I kindly ask you that I coordinate this discussion? Yes, Srekha, you have already made this point. The message has been conveyed. Yes. I think, is there any other remark on this presentation? It's not, I think it's not worth repeating the same issues. This issue has been conveyed. Is there any other remark from any participant on this, in this interesting presentation? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the presentation. Thank you very much for the comments as well. And Barbie, back to you.
Yes,
okay.
Thank you so much. And can we please be mindful of others' time constraints as well, because we're all here and we're all going to participate and present. So next up, we have Maria PG and Liana from Philippines talking about the cacao tradition in Cebu, Philippines. Over to you. So this is a pre-recorded, yes.
My name is Raquel Choa. I am 42 years old, a housewife, and a mother of 8. People here in the Philippines, they call me the chocolate queen. I thought at first I made the best chocolate. I realized it was also because I defied many conventions as a woman and as a Filipino. Why I became passionate of cacao? Well, it all started in a secluded mountain when I was around 7 years old, when my parents were separated. My grandparents took me and brought me on that mountain where cacao grows. There was no electricity, no people. I grew up drinking hot chocolate every day, going to my school 7 rivers away from home. I cannot leave the house without a cup of hot chocolate. What's the difference of our chocolate? Since, you know, of course, I claim that this is our hidden treasure and there's life, there's soul, and there's spirit. So I want to continue like very artisanal, because I want people to consume our chocolate with all your senses. I want them to discover the different notes, the different characteristics of a Philippine cacao beans. Believe it or not, there's a lot. There's like peppery, a little hint of sourness, nutty. Oh, it's really like, if you compare it to wine, it's really like full body. There's a little bitterness, but it will disappear later on. So it's beautiful. in the Philippines, our chocolate is not in a powder form. I want to clarify, it's like in the tablet form. So first you have, of course, get the cacao fruits from the cacao tree, cut it, and then of course dry it under the heat of the sun. You roast it. I remember when I was a little girl, my grandmother always told us, you have to roast the cacao beans like the fire that is really like hell. And I said, my grandmother have been in hell? And I was like, what is this? So it's like very, very, very hot. Then the moment it's hot, you put already the dried cacao beans and then continue roasting it. Wait until start popping. It's like popcorn. That's one of the indicator that cacao is ready to remove the skin. So after roasting, you have to remove the skin manually. Then after that, by using, since there is no electricity, so we only pound using the mortar and the pestle. So pound it, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then the cacao nib will turn into like paste, into mud, and then you mold it into tablet, into circle. But if it's like, you know, November, December, since it's cold, we used to make it into like small, like a bola de cacao. You need also to move. It's like you're dancing to create also heat in your body. It's like a manual tempering. And that's the way how you made the cacao de bola. For me, I always believe that everything has the right time. It will really come to you.
Good morning. My name is Maria Lorena P. Guba, and my partner is Liana Melissa E. De La Rosa. And we are here today to talk to you about the project proposal that we developed during the International Workshop on Intangible Cultural Heritage and Sustainable Development entitled Sikwati, Grandmother's Love. Did you know that cacao trees grow in a limited geographical zone of about 20 degrees to the north and south of the equator? And Philippines is one of the countries that is located in that zone. And this sikwate, otherwise known as the chocolate drink, is actually from that cacao tree. There's a quote that says, "Chocolate is the answer. Who cares what the question is?" And I am one of those who don't ask because I just love chocolates. Looking back, I realized that there is more to chocolate that can actually reveal the culture, the tradition, and the values of our community. Thus, this proposal. So, here is the background of our study. The cacao industry has a long history in the Philippines, from the time it was introduced to the Filipinos in 1670 until it developed as a commercial plant around 1950 and until today. Cacao has remained one of the booming industries in the Philippines. Cacao is not only a fruit whose seeds can be eaten when they are ripe. As a significant plant in the Philippines, cacao seeds can be made into delectable products like sikwate, the hot chocolate drink, and other chocolate products. The sikwate is a staple in Philippine breakfast that comes with dried fish and fried or plain rice, and of course, mangoes. The sikwate is poured into the rice like soup. It is a good drink when rainy season comes, especially during December after the Simbang Gabi. It goes well with other native delicacies like pandesal, puto, bibingka, and others. It is not only sikwate that is produced from cacao seeds, but also other subsistence products. It had been studied that the cacao as a plant can be useful not just for food, but for other purposes too. As we have seen in the video, Raquel Choa's love for chocolate began at a young age and stemmed from a challenging childhood. When she was 7, she was left under the care of her grandmother in the town of Balamban, about 53 kilometers from Cebu City, where I am from. The researchers, in an effort to preserve cultural anchors will try to retrieve the processes and stories associated with the element. In this way, it will be easy to pass it on to the next generation, stakeholders, and partners for the promotion of the ICH. A retrieval is necessary in order to get detailed information of the said ICH. It will also help make better narratives for the videos that will be made for future marketing. The promotion will help to conserve and preserve the flora and the ICH itself. Significance of the element. 1. The ripe cacao seeds, if eaten by themselves, are delicious. But when processed into tableya for sekwate or other products, they give a different delicious taste. 2. The cacao is the main source of chocolate products like cakes and drinks. And 3. This element should not be seen as something that is only good for food, but also for the health benefits it gives to the people. Long before the studies shown today, our cultural bearers were able to use sekwate to heal stomach ache and other kinds of body aches. That is actually healed then, had no scientific explanation then. Broad objective: to document ICH and promote awareness and appreciation for the sustainable development of the cacao industry. And our specific objectives: 1. To retrieve the traditional, inherited practices and beliefs associated with planting and cooking cacao beans. 2. To record and illustrate the different indigenous processes of creating cacao products, including the cultural aspect. And 3. To formulate solutions to the sustainable development of the cacao industry. The methodology that we will use is 1. Retrieval of the inherited traditional processes and practices in the cacao industry. 2. Formulating viable solutions for wider utilizations of these processes. And 3. Promotion through education by including it in the curriculum and using print and social media or internet. The stakeholder communities. The communities will benefit from this study as a cacao mass production will provide job opportunities. At the same time, they can innovate or come up with new products for those who are willing to experiment. The young generation will learn Chowa's grandmother's process of making sekwate and other cacao products. The teacher can promote the importance of cacao, its fruits and leaves, which are also good wrappers for a fish dish we call paksiw. And researchers may also be willing to explore more about the cacao's magic on diet and medicinal purposes. Our potential partners and collaborators. For sustainable development, the cacao industry with the sekwate could collaborate with government organizations and non-government organizations to it, like the Department of Education, for inclusion in the appropriate subjects in the elementary and secondary curriculum. Students can be taught hands-on on the different ways of making products of cacao. For Commission on Higher Education, to include in the curriculum of courses like home economics, hotel and restaurant management, nutrition and dietetics, and agriculture. And of course, languages classes that use authentic texts as exercises. National Commission for Culture and the Arts, for the preservation and conservation of the ICH. It can be included in the Philippine Registry of Cultural Property for easy access in the future. Department of Trade and Industry, for better regulation on globally competitive and innovative cacao industry for economic growth. And Department of Tourism, for better promotion, not just in the Philippines, but in the whole world, to see, taste, and recognize excellent Filipino products. A cultural manifestation series program can be held to demonstrate the making of cacao products. Now, let me tell you the legend of Maria Cacao that has been passed from Raquel Chowa's grandmother until her children. The legend of Maria Cacao, as told by Raquel Chowa's grandmother, whom they fondly called Nanay Nila. This inspiring story comforted them during the challenging times. Long ago, a fairy lived in a forest. Her name was Maria Cacao. She was the queen of the forest. She lived in a magical tree that fireflies lit in the night. Her place was full of cacao trees. During harvest, Maria Cacao loaded the cacao pods into her magical ship where it traveled through the river. The river overflowed whenever her ship, invisible to humans, passed by. That's when the villagers knew that Maria Cacao was on a voyage to sell her produce. Then, her voyage continued to the open seas. Her ship turned to gold every time she docked. Her beauty enchanted everyone. Two men guarded her all the time. One at her left, the other at her right. Many people bought her cacao beans. From her journey, she would take with her precious wares and metals from foreign lands. A big feast awaited her return in her palace. Today, each time the river overflows, people remember the tales, trails, and travels of Maria Cacao. Again, Raquel, as a mother, grew up with her grandmother, giving her different insights and values in life through the stories that were told her. She did the same thing to her children, teaching them in an informal manner. She made sure that her children understood the significance and the values that she had conveyed to them. Raquel said, "It became a system in our lives that each one should carry out a chore that one was taught to do." Her children would never complain about all the chores given to them. She even added that it was already a way of life to us. We can never measure my passing on to my children what I have learned from Nanay Nila. My children learned from it because they saw me and heard my stories. It is very informal. She has 8 children, and all of them learned and experienced making sikwate. They know the indigenous process, the process of Nanay Nila, the process Raquel learned to follow while growing up. Hannah, one of the children of Raquel, said her mom did not actually give them a formal lesson on how to plant and harvest cacao and make tablea and sakwate. She said, "My mom would tell us stories about her childhood and how life was back then." She would highlight many resources we have in the Philippines, especially cacao. She and her siblings find it very interesting to learn because they feel like their mom is guiding and molding them holistically. Through the storytelling, Hannah learned to value cacao, not just for sekwate, but for its health benefits too. Hannah mentioned that she is willing to pass on what she learned from her mom to other people and to the next generation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this interesting and delicious presentation. May I kindly ask for any comments, remarks, etc.? As it was already mentioned on the chat, the children's book was very interesting. The children's book was very interesting. Any remarks? Any comments?
Kamalji has his hand raised. Yes. Kamalji? Yeah.
Thank you very much. I like the very professional presentation. I will try to in the next. I see it is very, how to say, the interesting presentation and your hard work, and thank you very much. Cacao, you showed the pictures as cacao is growing in the different continent. And also your video, for me, it's more about the already industrialized and making more and profitable, or maybe in sites, and seems maybe more in a high-tech approach. You mentioned you are looking for the indigenous process. What is the relation in between cacao and indigenous peoples, particularly women? what is the mechanism for benefit sharing? How the indigenous people will get the profit for their livelihoods and their other matters. And thank you very much.
Okay, so of course the video was done by Alexander Studios and it looks so professional that we see it as high tech, but actually everything that she does is by her hand. You know, the cacao de bola, she did it by hand and all hand tools, by mortar and pestle. Even the making of tablia, everything there, no modern equipment was used because she is following her grandmother's process. Now, we are focusing in this family because this is what Raquel Choa has learned from her grandmother, passed on to her, now she passed on to her children. So here, we were not able to present that actually the family also is connected or have collaborated with cacao farmers here in Cebu. So there would be times that they will go to the cooperative and teach them the proper way or their way of planting the cacao, how to harvest it, how to pound it, how to ferment it, until how to make the tablia that will be made into sekwate. Now, even the drinking of the sekwate is very crucial because she said, how can you sell something that you do not know? Because for her, when she grew up, she does not know that chocolates are from cacao. So she said, cacao farmers should be able to enjoy this cacao drink, this sekwate. Because if you cannot drink it, then you're just selling it, no? Like the cacao fruit or the beans. But if you drink it, then that means you are the first quality controller. You know the notes, you know the sourness, the peppery, the bitter taste of it. So now the family is coordinating closely with that cooperative of farmers. Thank you for your question, Kamal.
Thank you. Other question, other remark? Then some remarks on my part. First of all, going back to the use of terms, you refer to sustainable development of the cacao industry. I think it would be better to use the sustainability of a cacao industry, because sustainable development is a broader term that is linked to communities, etc. So it would be better. It's not your fault, because on a global level, people, even organizations, tend to confuse these two things. We talk about the sustainability of a company, industry, etc., organization, but which helps towards the sustainable development of a broader local community or even broader community. So in terms of another issue, I do not come from Southeast Asia, from this region. I come from a Western country. We in the Western world, I cannot be a representative, but I would say that in the Western world, allow me to make it more general, in the Western world, we are not aware of this connection between cacao and Philippines. So I don't know how widely recognized this is in the region of in the continent of Asia or the region of Southeast Asia. But I think there could be some attempts to recognize that, to convey this message on a broader level. This is on my part, and in some cases the presentation could be even more focused and more defined. Like the children's book was a very good part of the presentation because it was very clearly defined. Some issues about the sustainability of the cacao industry could be a bit more defined, if I may add to that. Very interesting presentation. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Barvin, yes. Back to you.
No, I think Liana has a question. You raised.
Of course,
no,
of course.
I just want to clarify what Ionis had said. We actually just focused on the children's book, but actually we wanted also to focus on different aspects like sustaining the indigenous way of making the chocolate balls, like the indigenous way, aside from the legend of Maria Cacao. But it's already in our paper. We're not able to put it on the video because the video is, we need to have a shorter video, but it's in the paper that we mentioned there, the indigenous way of making the chocolate balls. That's all. But thank you for the comments, as well as to Kamal. Thank you.
Or I mean, based on this
Thank you
comment
very much.
Of Liana, we could say how, for example, through this story of children's story, to have a kind of program or part of this story about how this cacao was originally made, getting back to the indigenous knowledge systems of cacao production, etc. So, there are several ways of further developing that. It was a very nice comment. Thank you very much. Any other comments?
Thank you.
Yes, very, very nice comment, Lian. Any other comment? Barbie, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Maria and Liana. That was a beautiful presentation. Now we are moving on to our last presentation for the day by Wibisino. Wibisino is going to talk about ICH and of martial arts community in West Java, Indonesia.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. First, I want to share the video to explain the context of the ICH element that I presented. Okay, let me share the videos first.
Kaki kanan, jangan lupa.
But first, before I explain the strategy, I'll start this presentation to introduce what is MINPO and the problem that underlies the presence of the strategy that I propose as a means of safeguarding. Okay, MINPO is MINPO is one of the intangible cultural heritage originating from Cianjur, a small town in West Java, Indonesia. MINPO, by definition, has several versions. First, it comes from two words, which are mixture from the local language, mind, or to play, and po, which in Chinese means force, to push, and coercion. Some interpret as hitting according to popular technique used in this game. Another version relates to the resulting days effect, so that the word po in MINPO is associated with poho or forgetting in the local language. Dazing effect in MINPO is often associated with how fun this game is, making players lose track of time or something else that relates to event in the game, where the opponent who loses doesn't feel hurt, doesn't even feel defeated. Okay, and then MINPO, although said to be a game at the beginning of its existence, but today MINPO is better known as one of the martial arts from Cianjur. Okay, then MINPO as an intangible cultural heritage is included in the broad framework of Pancasila tradition, which has already been registered in the UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage. In the means to classify MINPO as part of Pancasila as an intangible cultural heritage that seeks to formulate traditional martial art as a national treasure. From another perspective, are seen as reducing the diversity of the variety of movement and values that are very diverse in Indonesia. In fact, today, in various popular media, Pencaksilat is oftenly seen as a sport. This view is not entirely wrong. In the beginning, according to manuscript sources, MINPO is a derivation of various traditional martial arts schools from various regions that are used for survival needs that emphasize physical exercise. When it arrived in Cianjur and came into contact with the culture that was already present, the MINPO underwent a transformation, but in terms of movement and philosophy. MINPO is no longer viewed in a narrow perspective. Okay, and then when this martial art was present in Cianjur during the Dutch East colonial period, this tradition was circulated among limited circles. In this context, the noble society in Cianjur. Through the pattern of distribution, this tradition and comparing it with the context of the times, the need for martial art was no longer limited to survival matters with physical contact. MINPO transformed into a game to spend their free time. Some developed this martial art into a dance which became known as Ibingan MINPO or MINPO dance. The transformation also occurs in the philosophical aspect. Some MINPO gurus are also affiliated with various sophistic spiritual movement known as Tarika. MINPO as form of self-defense, which initially emphasized physical contact for survival, became a universal teaching of peace, harmony, and goodness with nature, humans, and God. Okay, and then the next is safeguarding problems. Okay, problem number one. Historically, the shift of the center of power from Cianjur to Bandung. Bandung is capital city in West Java province. During the colonial period, influenced the shifting of cultural centers in the West Java region. Now, Cianjur to several other areas in West Java. At first glance, there is nothing problematic about the presence of this phenomenon. However, if you look closely in the Cianjur area itself, some schools in MINPO are becoming rare to find. Even if there are some heirs are also aggressively transferring their knowledge to their students who are outside Cianjur, such as Bandung and Jakarta. Again, the problem number two, teaching methods are dominated by verbal transmission of knowledge. However, along with the presence of the COVID-19 pandemic that hit Indonesia, The existing teaching methods also encountered obstacles. Restriction on physical interaction make the inheritance of move or jurus even more limited. Okay, and then problem number 3, some of the teachers who inherit the Manpo tradition in West Java are getting older, which, if related to the problem in point number 2, is urgently needed to materialize values and teaching methods through the latest image recording technology. Okay, problem number 4, there is no canonization of manuscript related to Manpo due to very limited text sources. And then problem number 5, the rise of new martial arts from various countries, which are considered more representative of the needs and lifestyle of the younger generation in Indonesia today. Okay, and then the last problem is lack of monetization strategies based on differences in interest and culture among the stakeholders. Okay, and then this implementation of the action plan. Okay, first, gather the literature from the classical literature sources from the Dutch is in this colonial era, the era when the early Manpo maestros live and develop this teaching. Okay, and then together the genealogy and teaching sources, because one of the distinctive aspect of the local martial arts tradition in Indonesia is remembering the ancestor, which in this context are the teachers who have inherited this teaching from generation to generation. Okay, and then strategy number 3, third strategy, recording of various of body movement in Manpo Cianjur. And then the next is documentation of the speech of the remaining teachers and heirs to the Manpo school in the West Java region. And then next is stakeholder mapping in several cities and age range in Indonesia to obtain the specific data about the culture of the younger generation. The goal is to understand how consumption patterns and lifestyle will be linked to the pattern of preserving Manpo to the next generation in Indonesia. Okay, and then the next is create monthly discussion forum involving the practitioners, observers, and researchers to enrich the data and as a form of involvement as well as multidisciplinary collaboration. And then second step is data implementation. Okay. First plan is translation and adaptation of the manuscript into the Indonesia and English. And then next is manuscript publication in Indonesia and English. And then publish the video via the popular platform like YouTube and Vimeo. And then adaptation to the script into popular visual works, which has inspired by Stephen Barnes in the Batman comic, which include one of the School of Manpo Cikalong as a discourse in the comic narrative. Okay, and then the next, held Manpo workshop in several training facilities and public spaces in Bandung and Jakarta. And then mapping the culture of Manpo in Indonesia. And then the third step, the infrastructural aspect. Making Manpo Corner in one of the public libraries and cultural institution in Bandung. And next is create the portal data that can be accessed by the public. This idea inspired by SRAF methodology to create the ethnographical based data system. And then creation of to create the training ground as a hub that the Manpo community can use to practice and discussion. Okay, this is the end of my presentation. Suggestions are expected to add instead in the conservation efforts that have been carried out by other colleges in Indonesia. Glad to be present in this event. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Vibisono. Any questions?
Dr.
Remark?
Han. Dr. Han has a question, I think.
Yes, thank you, Baba. Ravi, thank you, Wibisono, for the interesting presentation. I would like, I think you focus a lot. You talk about getting the documentation, the practices, how it was documented from libraries and manuscripts and stuff, which is the important aspect for the inventory process. I'm just curious to what extent this practice is still being practiced and whether it is possible to really talk to the community, talk to the masters, talk to the people who are practicing it, because that is really the most relevant and most important source of knowledge that you would need to look at. Because the history and all that is important, but what we want to look at is how it is being practiced and how viable it is. And so I think I would encourage you to look at that. And for sports, I think one of the very practical way to bring it to help safeguarding is to bring it into school, because physical education is existing in all level of education, for primary, secondary, and so I think encouraging them to use this kind of traditional martial arts or sports into the practice, into their PE classes, a practical way to connect with the community and at the same time to encourage new generations of practitioners.
Your suggestion, Dr. Han?
Some thoughts on my part would be, for example, it would be interesting. You mentioned several threads of for this tradition. If one would ask you to put in a hierarchy these threads, which one would you think that is the strongest one, or is the source of the other ones?
I think the thread number 6, like monetization strategies.
Say that again, sorry.
Lack of monetization strategies, I think.
One of them?
Lack of the monetization strategies.
Got it. Very good. Exactly. Because in terms of hierarchy, what seems to be the most important threat is that the new generation is not really practicing that. But the reason for that could be this lack of monetization strategies. So your answer was a very good one. So if you focus a bit more on that and try to find some solutions on that, then the other threats and challenges could be absorbed, could be dealt with through that. Very good answer. Very good. You're very much into that, and you're very, it was a very good, very mature answer, Wibisono. Making the discussion this point a bit broader, it is very interesting always to map threads, etc., but sometimes it is interesting to see the links between the different threads, the different elements, and try to identify the most important ones, or the ones that you would like, your project, we would like to address, and then focus a bit more on these points. Otherwise, we just see 5 or 6 or 7 threads, and it is impossible to deal with. Yes, Barbie, back to you.
Okay.
Or is there any other element, any other question on this very interesting presentation?
Thank you, Yohanes. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much.
Back to you then, Barbie.
Yes.
Thank you, Wibisono. Back to you, Barbie.
Okay, thank you so much. I think it's been a very long day for all of us, but these presentations were wonderful, and it has been a very interesting journey to learn so much about each other's cultures and each other's heritage, most importantly, and also how aware everyone is here regarding the safeguarding measures, and the project ideas were really good. So I really hope that you find partners and collaborators who can help you go ahead with these project ideas, and you find success in these projects as well.